Chapter 1026. Yun Mingzi wasn't afraid that Chu Xiu's appearance had turned the tables on both sides. Momentum was momentum, strength was strength, and the saying that soldiers with righteous indignation were bound to win was just an exception. However, what really made Yun Mingzi uncertain was that Chu Xiu seemed to be very relaxed, as if he had already solved the problem in front of him. Where did he get his confidence from? At this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly turned his gaze to Zhao Yuanfeng. An inexplicable smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Pavilion Leader Zhao, to be precise, should I call you Prince Zhao now? Your Jiangshan Pavilion has been doing well overseas. Why do you have to intervene in the conflict of the Central Plains warriors? It's one thing for you to intervene, but you went back on your word and chose to cooperate with Eastern Qi. That's a bit too much. Zhao Yuanfeng said calmly. The Northern Yen pulled Jiangshan Pavilion to the Central Plains just to make use of us. Since we're all using each other, why don't I find a powerful backer to be used? That would make me more valuable, wouldn't it? People in the pugilistic world have no control over themselves. Official Chu, Jiangshan Pavilion didn't mean to be your enemy, but now we have no choice. Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, That's fine. Since you didn't mean it, I'll forgive you. Take the people from the River Mountain Pavilion and leave, and I won't pursue this matter. Hearing this, Zhao Yuanfeng and the others were stunned. Chu Xiu didn't play by the rules. He had only said a few words. Why did Chu Xiu take it seriously? The elder from the Zhao family of Jiangshan Pavilion snorted. All right, why are you wasting time talking to him? Let's get this over with. Previously, when Jiangshan Pavilion had just entered Yanjing City, he had a conflict with Chu Xiu. This Zhao family elder still retained some of the royal family's behavior in the past and viewed that incident as a disgrace. Therefore, when Jiangshan Pavilion switched to Eastern Qi, this elder of the Zhao family had put in a lot of effort. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, It seems that Jiangshan Pavilion is still unrepentant. Forget it, people always have to be responsible for the decisions they make. Pavilion Master Zhao, I'll give you a present today. As soon as Chu Xiu finished speaking, he threw something at Zhao Yuanfeng, which rolled to his feet. It was a human head. When he saw the head, Zhao Yuanfeng's expression suddenly changed. He cried out involuntarily, Godfather! The head that Chu Xiu threw to him was Hu Xingzuan's head. Once Hu Xingzuan was dead, his body was naturally useless. Therefore, before he left, Chu Xiu remembered that Jiangshan Pavilion had also attacked Eastern Qi, so he asked Pak Donglai for Hu Xingzuan's head as a surprise for Zhao Yuanfeng. Now, it seemed that this surprise was enough. At least, Zhao Yuanfeng's current appearance was indeed very shocking. As for whether he was happy or not, only he himself knew. You killed Godfather? How could you possibly kill Godfather? The moment he saw Hu Xingzuan's head, Zhao Yuanfeng completely lost his composure. Actually, when Hu Xingzuan died, Zhao Yuanfeng wasn't that sad. It had to be said that Hu Xingzuan was a failure as a godfather. He bound his godsons with benefits, and there was no familial love between them. For example, back on Paragon Island, Fu Longshao had thought of abandoning Hu Xingzuan and escaping on his own. Now that he saw Hu Xingzuan's corpse, Zhao Yuanfeng was more shocked than sad. Although he didn't have any feelings for Hu Xingzuan, he knew how powerful Hu Xingzuan's influence in the Breeze Sea was. He was a supreme figure who lived up to his name. But now, his head was brought to him by Chu Xiu. What did this prove? It proved that there was a huge change in the Breeze Sea. The Hua family on Paragon Island had been completely overthrown. As Hu Xingzuan's godson, his foundation in the Breeze Sea was gone. He couldn't return to Jiangshan Pavilion anymore. Moreover, as the pavilion master of Jiangshan Pavilion, and Hu Xingzuan thought highly of him, Zhao Yuanfeng was very capable. He thought for a while, and his body instantly turned cold. Chu Xiu was the core figure of the Yinma clan. But after the Eastern Qi Imperial Court and the righteous martial arts world attacked the Northern Yen for such a long time, he didn't show up except to solve the predicament of the Guanzhong torture room. This was very suspicious. Now that Chu Xiu came here with Hu Xingzuan's head, it was obvious where he had been during this period. Thinking of the location of the Breeze Sea and the fact that Eastern Qi had put all the powerful armies on the 9 borders, Zhao Yuanfeng had vaguely figured out Chu Xiu's plan. This time, Jiangshan Pavilion might really be on the wrong side. The others didn't know how much Zhao Yuanfeng was thinking. They actually didn't know much about Zhao Yuanfeng's background. Seeing that Chu Xiu threw out ahead and Zhao Yuanfeng called him his adoptive father, they thought that Chu Xiu just killed an old man of Jiangshan Pavilion, who was Zhao Yuanfeng's adoptive father, to vent his anger. They didn't know what Zhao Yuanfeng's adoptive father represented. Seeing that Zhao Yuanfeng's state was not right, and even the momentum of the whole battle had changed since Chu Xiu showed up, Yun Mingzi and Han Jusi looked at each other and shouted together, "Kill! Don't stop!" The first spurt of energy, the second spurt of energy, the third spurt of energy. Originally, the righteous martial arts world wasn't united, and there were more people who wanted to fish in troubled waters. At this time, if they let Chu Xiu continue to talk like this, there might be some changes. Cut the Gordian knot, and kill the enemy in one spurt of energy, no conspiracy or trick would work. Chu Xiu looked at Shang Tianliang and said, "City Lord Shang, can you still hold on?" The meridians in Shang Tianliang's body had been penetrated by pure yang sword qi, and now he seemed a little weak. "We won't be able to hold on for long. If you don't bring reinforcements, I won't be able to hold on any longer." Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, "Don't worry, it won't be long before news comes." Just after Chu Xiu left the East Sea, Pak Donglai and the others had gathered the elites of the East Sea at the fastest speed and began to attack the coastal border of Eastern Qi. At present, except for the elite guards in Great Liang City of Eastern Qi, the other 9 border-strong armies had been pulled to the northern Yan border by Eastern Qi. The martial arts forces in the East Sea did not even have the slightest understanding of battle formations. They only needed to attack chaotically for a while, and the ordinary troops left by Eastern Qi would not be able to hold on. Therefore, Eastern Qi would have to retreat as soon as possible. Of course, at the moment, it was still up to Chu Xiu and the others to carry on. Looking at Yun Mingzi and Han Jusi, a dangerous glint flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes. He already knew that this war between the righteous and demonic factions was caused by these two. After being locked in the primitive demon's lair for 800 years, they still did not learn their lesson. As soon as they came out, they wanted to cause trouble. Damn it! The evil moon saber was already in Chu Xiu's hand, and the inner demon was suppressing the weapon spirit of the evil moon saber. In an instant, the blood moon bloomed, and the saber light distorted the surrounding space. With a slash, Chu Xiu went straight for Yun Mingzi. At this moment, Yun Mingzi had a feeling that he was being stared at by some terrifying beast. In the next moment, Yun Mingzi's body shone with pure yang astral energy, and the sword light traversed the sky. The surrounding heaven and earth Yuan Qi was like a raging storm, gathering around his sword. The blood moon on the evil moon saber distorted space, and no matter what kind of power it would be distorted by the blood moon. Chu Xiu's saber slashed down with extreme strength, and it also contained the saber intent of the broken sea of the 7 limits. It was as if it could shatter mountains and break rivers, and everything was collapsing. When the sword and blade collided, an intense shockwave instantly erupted forth. Yun Mingzi instantly felt an unbearable force rushing towards him. A crack appeared on his divine weapon, and his entire person was sent flying by Chu Xiu's slash. Fresh blood splattered from his body as he flew through the air. At this moment, everyone was stunned. As for Yun Mingzi, he was an expert from 800 years ago, so most people were unfamiliar with him. However, they were not unfamiliar with the position of the head of the 6 Temple Protector spiritual masters. Throughout history, those who could sit in this position in Chunyang Dao sect were not weak. Mako Mori looked at Chu Xiu in horror. How long had it been? Compared to when he was in the Guanzhong torture room, Chu Xiu's strength had improved. His strength was a bit stronger than when he was in the Guanzhong torture room. Perhaps the most terrifying thing about Chu Xiu was not his strength, but the speed of his improvement. When you were still looking at him with the old eyes, and when you were still using your old strength to plot against him, he could come up with unexpected strength and smash everything you had planned. Seeing that Chu Xiu's saber slashed Yun Mingzi until he vomited blood, Han Jusi's expression changed, and he shouted in a low voice, "Let's attack together." He's not at the heaven and earth mystic realm, so what are you afraid of? Unless he was at the heaven and earth mystic realm and had the strength to affect the battle, he would die of exhaustion. Just like when Xiang Chong held the 9-dragon seal and unleashed the power of the dragon vein, it was infinitely close to the heaven and earth mystic realm, but in the end, he was the first to collapse. As Han Juxi's voice fell, he and Lu Changlu attacked Chu Xiu together. At the same time, Zhao Yuanfeng and the elder from the Zhao clan also rushed over. Together with Yun Mingzi, who had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood, they got up again. A total of 5 people at the True Fire Spirit Refinement realms surrounded Chu Xiu. Being attacked by so many True Fire Spirit Refinement realm powerhouses at the same time, even Xiang Chong, who had previously unleashed the power of the 9-dragon seal, did not receive such treatment. There was a hint of coldness in Chu Xiu's eyes, but he did not retreat. At the moment, almost all of Elder Wei and the others were injured. If he did not appear, they might really not be able to resist. Therefore, at the moment, the more firepower he could attract, the better. It would be best to let the battle fall into his own rhythm. In fact, the entire battle had unknowingly fallen into Chu Xiu's rhythm. As soon as he appeared, he gained the upper hand, so Yun Mingzi and Han Juxi paid great attention to him, and they focused all their strength on him. In fact, if Han Juxi and the others spread out and desperately tried to kill Wei Shuya and the others, Chu Xiu could only rescue them first. Chapter 1027. In terms of attracting hatred, Chu Xiu was considered to be quite talented. Just like now, as long as he stood out, he would immediately become the target of everyone's attacks. Of course, this was exactly what Chu Xiu needed. The 5 people attacked together, but Chu Xiu ignored them and charged toward Yun Mingzi first. Seeing Chu Xiu's action, Yun Mingzi was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood again. Just now, Chu Xiu was aiming at him. Now, with so many people attacking together, he was obviously the last one. Why did they target him? Yun Mingzi had already experienced Chu Xiu's power, and he didn't want to experience it again. Holding his sword in front of him, Yun Mingzi pinched a Taoist seal with his hand. In an instant, the Taoist runes bloomed in front of him. Lu Changlu of the real martial arts sect waved the horsetail whisk in his hand. Extremely pure qi of heaven and earth was gathered in the horsetail whisk by him and wrapped around Chu Xiu. His horsetail whisk was left by Ning Xuanji in the past. The Taoist connotation was self-generated, and the qi of heaven and earth that was drawn over was extremely pure. It was as if the world itself was restraining Chu Xiu. At the same time, Han Juxi's figure followed closely behind. One by one, the Taoist patterns were quickly drawn in his hand and hovered around his body. Han Juxi's hands seemed to be holding the sun and the moon. 2 forces, clear and muddy, condensed in front of him. Heaven and earth furnace, yin and yang creation. The 2 forces reached an extremely delicate balance in his arms. As the power of the Taoist patterns flourished, Han Juxi smashed toward Chu Xiu's seal. The huge furnace that was condensed by the qi of heaven and earth and yin and yang also went straight toward Chu Xiu. The power contained in it was simply shocking. Lu Changlu and Han Juxi were both from the real martial arts sect. At this time, they cooperated with each other very well. Lu Changlu was a gentle person. He was a well-known kind person in the martial world. Even his martial arts attack power was not too strong. On the contrary, it was miraculous for him to assist from the side. In Han Juxi's era, even the Dao sects were very aggressive. Therefore, Han Juxi was more radical. However, at this time, when the 2 of them joined forces, their martial arts complemented each other. The power was also shocking. Immediately after, Zhao Yuanfeng's finger landed. The force of his finger penetrated the void. It was invisible and intangible, but it caused the surrounding air to emit a violent sonic boom. Wave-breaking finger could split water and break waves. If this was used in the sea, it would be enough to shake the waves for a few miles. The elder from the Zhao clan also slammed his palm down. The palm force transformed into a boundless giant wave, and its power was incomparably vast. It was also Chu Xiu's first time fighting with so many true fire spirit refinement realm martial artists of the same level. Zhao of Xiao of one, he of was more powerful than of. The reason was very simple. When facing a person alone, even if you wanted to fight to the end, you would only need to focus on that person. However, in the face of being surrounded by so many people, it was inevitable that one's energy would be scattered, especially when the people surrounding you were not weak. If you were careless in any aspect, it could lead to your defeat. However, Chu Xiao's method of breaking out of this situation was very simple. Since there were so many of them, he would kill as many as he could until there were fewer of them. Chu Xiao's body was burning with internal true fire. At the same time, it was mixed with the black world extinguishing fire. A powerful force suddenly broke out. After the world extinguishing fire broke free from Lu Changliu's restraint, it followed the trajectory of Lu Changliu's true qi. It moved toward his horsetail whisk and even his body. The power of the world extinguishing fire was evil. At least, Lu Changlu did not want to be touched by it. Therefore, he began to retreat. His Taoist connotation burst out to resist the world extinguishing fire. The evil moon saber was held in Chu Xiao's hand. As the saber fell, the twisted blood moon turned into a sharp bloodline in an instant, tearing and cutting everything. The saber essence of the break formula slashed out. Everything in front of him was almost cut in half. Space was cut and time was torn. The huge furnace formed by the yin and yang power of heaven and earth was extremely violent and unstable. As long as the Taoist pattern on it melted, it would immediately explode. However, under the attack of Chu Xiao's break formula, the furnace was neatly cut in half. Heaven returned to heaven, earth returned to earth, yin returned to yin, and yang returned to yang. It was as if that power had never existed. In the blink of an eye, it had already dissipated between heaven and earth. However, Chu Xiao's break formula didn't stop. It continued to slash at Han Jusi. A Taoist sword with talismans carved on it was held in Han Jusi's hand. In an instant, 81 talismans were pointed out by the long sword. His speed was even faster than the sword cultivators of the 5 major sword sects. However, it was still useless. Under the saber essence of Chu Xiao's break formula, the power of the saber was simply invincible. 81 talismans were laid out in an instant. However, they were instantly destroyed by Chu Xiao. At this moment, the scorching pure yang sword light fell. Yun Mingzi, who had been abandoned by Chu Xiao as a target, made a timely move and blocked in front of Han Jusi. There was a loud explosion. Yun Mingzi had finally helped Han Jusi block Chu Xiao's saber. However, his divine weapon Taoist sword, which had already been chipped, was completely cut in half by Chu Xiao's break formula. Han Jusi looked at Yun Mingzi with lingering fear and said in a low voice, "Thank you." Yun Mingzi's expression was somewhat complicated. He looked at Chu Xiao and said with an indescribable complex expression, "He miscalculated." Han Jusi's expression also changed. "Yes, we miscalculated." Their target this time was Chu Xiao, but their miscalculation was also on Chu Xiao. They had never imagined that Chu Xiao's strength would actually be so powerful. It was simply powerful to the point of being unreasonable. Yun Mingzi gritted his teeth and said, "Delay. Even if we can't win, we must delay. As long as we block the Yinma clan and the Northern Yen martial world, the Northern Yen Imperial Court will not be able to hold on for long. When the Northern Yen Imperial Court is completely defeated, it will also be the day that Chu Xiao's foundation is destroyed. At that time, even if they don't lose here, their foundation in Northern Yen will be burned to the ground and their vitality will be greatly damaged." Han Jusi also nodded calmly, but he did not know that they had miscalculated more than this. At this moment, Chu Xiao had just used the break formula to cut Yun Mingzi's weapon in half, and Zhao Yuanfeng's powerful wave breaker finger had already arrived in front of him. Without dodging, Chu Xiao's Mahakala devil god Dharma form suddenly appeared behind him. In his third eye, the scorching hot destructive fire suddenly burst out, meeting the wave breaker finger's wave breaker finger. When the two collided, the scattered world extinguishing flames landed on the ground, instantly burning a huge pit. At this moment, Chu Xiao's figure shot out like a cannonball. His body was burning with internal true fire, and he punched out directly at the Zhao family elder. No one present had expected that Chu Xiu would suddenly change his target. The power of the punch was even more shocking. Chu Xiu's figure had already arrived in front of the Zhao family elder, and suddenly a sonic boom was heard. It was earth-shattering, and the domineering fist intent seemed to be tearing the sky and earth apart. Not long ago, Chu Xiu had used such a punch to kill Bailey Pobbing, the East Sea's #1 warrior. This Zhao family elder was not young, and he looked like he was about to die. He could not be compared to Bailey Pobbing at all. The palm's strength that was considered powerful in the eyes of others was extremely fragile in the eyes of Chu Xiu. Feeling the power of Chu Xiu's punch, the Zhao family elder was extremely shocked. While withdrawing his power, the Zhao family elder shouted in horror, "Save me!" Although Zhao Yuanfeng could not stand the Zhao family elder using his seniority to suppress him, he was, after all, a true fire refinement state expert of Jiangshan Pavilion. He was a part of Jiangshan Pavilion's power, and he could not just watch him die here. The others present were the same, and they all rushed toward Chu Xiu. It was true that they did not have any friendship with the Zhao family elder. But now they had a common enemy, and that was Chu Xiu. They were all true fire refinement state warriors, and no one was so short-sighted. At this time, they were still playing the game of fighting on their own, allowing Chu Xiu to defeat them one by one. However, just as they were about to make a move, the Mahakala devil god Dharma idol that had intercepted Zhao Yuanfeng before suddenly exploded, and a large amount of world-destroying fire instantly enveloped all of them. Condensing the Dharma idol consumed a lot of spiritual qi. Suddenly destroying the Dharma idol consumed so much that even Chu Xiu's face turned pale. However, all of this was no longer important. With Chu Xiu's current physical strength, his punch had completely shattered the Zhao family's elder's palm force and protective aura with just pure strength alone, completely turning his arm into a bloody mist. The Zhao family elder howled miserably, and a stream of light appeared around him. In the midst of the explosion, water vapor filled the air, but it forcibly reduced the power of Chu Xiu's punch by half. After all, the Zhao family elder was in existence in the true fire refinement state. Although the Zhao family elder was not very strong, he still had some trump cards. Otherwise, Chu Xiu's punch could have easily killed him. But before he could react, Chu Xiu had already arrived in front of him, grabbed him by the neck, and said coldly, "Is overseas not enough for you Jiangshan Pavilion to play with? You want to come to the Central Plains to stir up trouble? The Qing dynasty has fallen, and you still want to restore the country and pretend to be a royal family? You're just a group of poor people who don't know what you're talking about." The Zhao clan's elder had yet to react to what the great Qing dynasty was. Their Zhao clan's previous name was not Qing either. At the next moment, Chu Xiu's fist had already appeared before his eyes. With a loud explosion, Chu Xiu's fist smashed the Zhao clan's elder's head into pieces. He then casually threw the headless corpse to one side. The whole battlefield suddenly fell into a strange silence. The righteous path and the devil path had been fighting for so long that even Shang Tianliang, who was in the mysterious realm of heaven and earth, had been injured. But it was the first time that an existence in the true fire refinement state had fallen, and he had died so miserably. Seeing the Zhao family elder's headless body thrown to the ground like a pile of rotten meat, the warriors of the righteous path suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. Chapter 1028. Even in the eyes of most of the big sects, cultivators at the spiritual refinement realm with true fire were unattainable. It was normal for cultivators at this realm to die or be killed. After all, there would always be someone stronger than you. However, Chu Xiu had killed a cultivator at the spiritual refinement realm with 2 punches as easily as killing a chicken. This scene was too shocking. Zhao Yuanfeng and the others broke through the shackles of the destructive fire. When they saw that the elder of the Zhao family was killed by Chu Xiu with 1 punch, their faces were extremely gloomy. Shameful, utterly shameful. It was 5 against 1, yet one of them was easily killed. Wasn't that embarrassing enough? But at the same time, they had to admit that although Chu Xiu was at the same realm as them, the spiritual refinement realm with true fire, his combat strength had almost reached the peak of the entire realm. The current Chu Xiu even made Zhao Yuanfeng think of one person, the sword sage of the Eastern Sea, Kang Dongming. That person used to be his foreign minister, but even he had to treat him politely, not daring to have any malice. Invincible among those at the same realm, the current Chu Xiu was almost qualified to be called that. The first one. Chu Xiu stretched out a finger, thinking that in the next moment, he would directly attack Yun Mingzi. Again, Yun Mingzi's expression suddenly changed. This time, the four of them directly attacked together, concentrating their strength on one point, intercepting Chu Xiu at the same time. In the next moment, Chu Xiu made a seal with his hand, and wisps of black aura bloomed from his body, pouring into the world, as if he was drawing the most extreme power of evil in this world. In the next moment, a ghostly murmur could be faintly heard. In the end, the murmur even turned into a mournful wail. As the voice descended, a scarlet rain of blood fell. The ferocious demon tore open the world in the void. With a palm strike, the joint attack of the four was instantly shattered. The four of them were directly blasted into the ground, leaving only a huge handprint on the ground. Once the devil-grieving heaven-weeping mantra was unleashed, its might was simply earth-shattering. The four of them were unable to stop it at all. Chu Xiu's inner force, true fire and world-extinguishing fire burned together. Zhao Yuanfeng rushed over and was sent flying with a punch. Lu Changlu slashed out with his Dao sword, but Lu Changliu's divine weapon was shattered by his blade. Han Jiao wanted to set up a killing array to suppress it, but the world annihilation fire directly burned him into ashes. In the end, only Yun Mingzi was left, struggling bitterly under Chu Xiu's attacks. However, without a weapon, he was beaten to the point of vomiting blood by Chu Xiu in just a few moves. Yun Mingzi gritted his teeth and did not retreat. 800 years ago, he was also a genius of the generation. At this time, he had just stepped into the martial world again and caused such a huge storm. He did not believe that he would die like this, nor did he believe that he would be defeated like this. A blood-red sun rose from behind Yun Mingzi. Within the boiling sun, there was a burning hot qi and blood, like magma. Seeing that Yun Mingzi was about to go all out, Han Jusi and the others immediately wanted to help him. At this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly said, "Pavilion Master Zhao, I gave you a chance before, but you did not cherish it. Now, I'll give you another chance to choose a side. Although I was the one who killed that old guy from Jiangshan Pavilion, killing him is equivalent to helping you get rid of a piece of trash who was holding you back. If you betray me, Wei County will still be yours. As long as you give up the title of the country and come to Yanjing City to ask for forgiveness, I can protect your Jiangshan Pavilion. If you insist on being stubborn, you should know the outcome. The others may not know, but can't you predict who will win and who will lose? I've already given you Hua Xingzuan's head. Do you want me to go to the East China Sea and bring you the heads of Bailey Paobing, Fu Longxiao, and Nalinhai?" Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Zhao Yuanfeng's heart was instantly filled with a chill. The fact that Chu Xiu could name those people proved that his guess was right. Supreme Island was completely gone. If the Fifth Lord Hua and the others were still around, even if he suffered in the Central Plains, he could still return to the overseas and make a comeback. But now that the Fifth Lord Hua and the others were gone, would there still be a place for him to stay if he returned to the East China Sea? Moreover, he was now on the side of Eastern Qi and the righteous pugilistic world. If he lost this time, would Wei County still have a place for him? By then, there would be no place for him in the Central Plains, overseas, or even in the vast pugilistic world. Just as Zhao Yuanfeng was hesitating, Han Jusi and the others saw the hesitation on his face. Traitors, no matter where they were, weren't welcomed by people. If Zhao Yuanfeng could choose to betray the Northern Yan once, he could naturally choose to betray them again. When they heard Chu Xiu's words, there was no reason for them not to be suspicious. Seeing the expressions on Han Jusi and the others' faces, Zhao Yuanfeng smiled bitterly in his heart. He knew that they were beginning to suspect him. He did not blame Chu Xiu for trying to sow discord. It was just that they were in a union of benefits, and there were too many loopholes between them. Especially for people like Zhao Yuanfeng, he did not care about the righteous or the evil. All he cared about was benefits. Now that he had aroused Han Juxi's suspicions, Zhao Yuanfeng gritted his teeth and used the wave-breaker finger to attack Han Juxi. He had been forced into a corner and had chosen to go against Chu Xiu. There was no way for him to survive. Since he chose to betray them, he could only hope that Chu Xiu would choose to keep his promise. Zhao Yuanfeng, I knew that a shameless villain like you is absolutely unreliable. Seeing that Zhao Yuanfeng had betrayed them, Han Juxi could not help but curse angrily. Zhao Yuanfeng gritted his teeth and said, "When you tempted me, Jiangshan Pavilion, to help you, you made extravagant claims, saying that you would definitely win. What about now? The coast of Eastern Qi is about to be lost. How long can you hold on?" Han Juxi was stunned. Coast? Did something go wrong with Eastern Qi? Han Juxi was a martial artist from 800 years ago. He could not even recognize some of the forces in the Jianghu today, let alone those from overseas. But now that Zhao Yuanfeng had attacked, he had no time to ask any more questions. Seeing that Zhao Yuanfeng had successfully betrayed them, Chu Xiu swung the blade in his hand and used the Misty Slash. In an instant, the boiling blood-red sun behind Yun Mingzi suddenly froze in place. The Misty Slash froze time and space. Yun Mingzi roared, and all the blood and qi in his body began to boil and explode. That blood-red sun was so dazzling that it seemed as if he had used all of his strength to break free from the Misty Slash's imprisonment. But at this moment, Chu Xiu abruptly withdrew his blade, formed a seal with his hand, and spat out 2 words to Yun Mingzi, "Goodbye." In the next moment, countless blood-red patterns erupted from Chu Xiu's body, affecting the qi and blood in Yun Mingzi's body. The power of the blood demon divine art was unleashed to the extreme by Chu Xiu in an instant. Previously, in order to break free from the restraints of Chu Xiu's Misty Slash, Yun Mingzi had completely unleashed the power of his blood qi to the point where he was unable to control it. Now, under the influence of Chu Xiu's blood demon power, it was like a bomb that had been ignited. With a loud bang, the huge blood-red sun had exploded before it could even reach Chu Xiu. In an instant, the entire battlefield was shrouded in blood-red sunlight, and Yun Mingzi had been completely blown to pieces by the power he had gathered with all his might. The second one. Chu Xiu stretched out 2 fingers, but quickly retracted them. This was because it was similar to the hand gesture of, "yeah," when taking a picture. It was not a serious gesture in this situation, although no one here knew what it meant. Grandmaster Ling Yunzi, who was suppressing Shang Tingyang, roared angrily. His eyes were red, and it was obvious that he was extremely angry. In fact, Ling Yunzi did not have any feelings for Grandmaster Yun Mingzi. Although Yun Mingzi was indeed his grandmaster in terms of seniority, there was no debt of gratitude between them. He was even a little dissatisfied with Yun Mingzi's radical character. However, no matter what, Yun Mingzi was still a member of his Chunyang Dao sect. The leader of the 6 spiritual masters of this generation of Chunyang Dao sect died in the hands of Chu Xiu, and the leader of the 6 spiritual masters 800 years ago died in the hands of Chu Xiu. So, the leader of the 6 spiritual masters of Chunyang Dao sect was killed by Chu Xiu? This was too much. If Chu Xiu were to continue killing, their pure Yang Dao sect would simply become a laughingstock. In the end, no one would sit on this seat even if it was given to someone else for fear of being killed. Seeing that Chu Xiu had successfully angered a powerhouse in the mysterious realm of heaven and earth, Shang Tianliang immediately wanted to stop him. However, Chu Xiu said, "City Master Shang, let him come over. You deal with the others." Now that Shang Tianliang was seriously injured, he would not be able to stop Ling Yunzi for long. However, if the seriously injured Shang Tianliang were to deal with other martial artists in the spiritual cultivation realm of true fire, it would be much easier. As for whether Chu Xiu could stop Ling Yunzi, he had a certain degree of confidence. During the overseas trip, Chu Xiu's realm did not increase, but his understanding of the spiritual cultivation realm of true fire had increased to a higher level, and his combat power had increased a little. To put it simply, the current Chu Xiu was a little too arrogant. He believed that he had the strength to go against the mysterious realm of heaven and earth. Ling Yunzi came over in anger. He pointed the pure yang sword in his hand, and in an instant, thousands of sword flashes descended from the sky. A scorching aura instantly enveloped Chu Xiu. At that instant, Chu Xiu felt like he was above the sun. He could no longer see anything in front of him except for the glaring pure yang radiance. In the past, before Ling Yunzi had stepped into the mysterious realm of heaven and earth, Chu Xiu had fought with him, so he knew Ling Yunzi quite well. But today, when Ling Yunzi attacked again, even Chu Xiu had to admit that the difference between the mysterious realm of heaven and earth and the spiritual cultivation realm of true fire was like heaven and earth. From borrowing the power of heaven and earth to controlling the heaven and earth, Ling Yunzi had complete control over this area. Chu Xiu gave a low roar, and the evil moon saber bloomed with a blood moon. The moment the saber intent of the break formula appeared, it sliced through everything. The pure yang radiance was torn apart. The saber and sword collided, and a terrifying aura exploded. With the two of them as the epicenter, the scattered saber aura shattered the earth and rocks, but it was instantly melted by the scorching pure yang astral qi. Within a radius of a few hundred feet, it was like a lava hell. Chapter 1029. An existence at the mystic heaven and earth realm was not easy to block. Even though Chu Xiu was confident before, after exchanging a blow with Ling Yunzi, Chu Xiu's evil moon saber suddenly let out a sorrowful cry. The violent aura was constantly trembling, and Chu Xiu even had to exert himself to suppress the evil moon saber. What's going on? It shouldn't be time yet. Mental Demon said helplessly, "It's not time yet, but I can't suppress the evil moon saber anymore. Your opponent is too strong, and that extreme pure yang power is not something that the evil moon saber can resist. His sword is not ordinary, and it has even injured the evil moon saber's weapon spirit." Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes. Of course, he knew that his opponent's sword was not ordinary. It was Ancestor Lu's sword of pure yang in the past. However, he did not expect the evil moon saber to be so fragile that it could not withstand a single blow. Indeed, it was not convenient to use a weapon that was not his own. After putting away the evil moon saber, Ling Yunzi's long sword vibrated, drawing all the pure yang power in the world. It formed a huge domain and attacked Chu Xiu. Experts at the mystic heaven and earth realm controlled heaven and earth. In this domain they were like gods. The power of such suppression was not ordinary. The devil whale heaven weeping great compassion mantra was unleashed once again. As the heaven weeping blood rain descended, the innate demon god tore the domain apart. However, it wasn't able to deal much damage to Ling Yunzi. After exchanging a few blows with Ling Yunzi, Chu Xiu was suppressed by Ling Yunzi. Now, he finally knew how big the gap was between him and an ordinary expert at the mystic heaven and earth realm like Ling Yunzi. Chu Xiu was able to block his opponent's attacks, but practically every time he blocked, he would have to use his full strength, using all of his strength in order to be able to contend against them. On the other hand, although Ling Yunzi was furious, he had been stabilizing his power to a certain level. He was waiting for Chu Xiu to be unable to hold on any longer. Then, he would strike like a thunderbolt and destroy Chu Xiu completely with the swiftest power. To be honest, this kind of fighting style was not very good to look at. Most warriors advocated for a thunderous strike, directly defeating the opponent. Ling Yunzi, who was in the profound enlightenment of heaven and earth realm, was fighting against Chu Xiu, a martial artist in the true fire spirit refinement realm. He was bullying the weak with his strength, and he even used this kind of fighting method. It was inevitable that people would look down on him. However, Ling Yunzi himself did not feel that way. To him, if he could successfully kill Chu Xiu, what was his reputation worth? Although this seemingly gentle and steady fighting style could not do anything to Chu Xiu for the time being, it made Chu Xiu feel that it was even more troublesome. Suddenly, Chu Xiu spoke to the side. "Everyone from Sword King City, stop watching the show and lend me a hand. I have something good for all of you." The people from Sword King City had been watching the show for a long time. Previously, they had thought that the hidden devil lineage would definitely lose. However, who would have thought that after Chu Xiu appeared, his actions would be reversed? However, not long after the reversal, Chu Xiu's side was once again being suppressed by Ling Yunzi. Now, even Heavenly King Shen did not dare to say which side would win this battle. Therefore, he wisely chose not to get involved in this matter and chose to watch the show. Even Heavenly King Shen was taken aback by Chu Xiu's sudden words. He really dared to speak up. One had to know that the relationship between Sword King City and Chu Xiu was not harmonious. Although he was good friends with Fang Qishao, Sword King City did not belong to Fang Qishao alone. He could not influence Sword King City's attitude toward Chu Xiu and the hidden devil lineage. It was already kind enough that he did not add insult to injury, but Chu Xiu actually wanted them to help him. What was he thinking? Did he think that Sword King City was so easy to deal with? However, before Heavenly King Shen could speak, Chu Xiu quickly took out a pill that radiated sword chi after blocking Ling Yunzi's attack. He said, "Legend has it that a sword pill left behind by an ancient sword cultivator. This is completely intact. Take it and it will be enough for Sword King City to deduce the complete mystic art of condensing a sword pill. Is this enough for Sword King City to help us?" The moment they saw the sword pill, the cultivators of Sword King City were tempted. Although it was recorded in the ancient records that something like a sword pill was too time-consuming, the gains did not make up for the losses in condensing it. However, the Sword King City's martialists would spend most of their time cultivating in the desolate and uninhabited western desert. Therefore, they had the most time. Most importantly, as a sword cultivator, no one could refuse such a famous mystic art from ancient times. Seeing that the people of Sword King City were tempted, Ling Yunzi immediately said, "Sect Master Shen, this is the battlefield of the righteous path and the fiend path. Both sides are destined to fight to the death. It's fine if Sword King City didn't join in, but if you join in now, you will become an enemy of the righteous path." Heavenly King Shen laughed and said, "Taoist Ling Yunzi, this kind of threat is meaningless. Sword King City is far away in the western desert. We usually don't become enemies with the Central Plains warriors, not because we are magnanimous, but because we don't have enough benefits. But I'm sorry, Sword King City has already seen the benefits. If we don't join in, how can we face ourselves? If you can also take out something comparable to the sword pill, we can also counterattack Chu Xiu now. After all, the highest bidder wins. Even if we sell ourselves, we have to sell ourselves for a good price." Ling Yunzi and the rest of the righteous path were helpless against Heavenly King Shen's blatant utilitarianism. This was because Sword King City had never been a kind party to begin with. In the western desert, there were countless small countries in the western region. To them, Sword King City was definitely a transcendent existence. If they were in a good mood, they would help them dominate a region. If they were in a bad mood, they could casually cut off their king's head and kick it like a ball. It was all very normal. To Sword King City, those who weren't of the same race were bound to have different intentions. Were barbarians even human? Therefore, they didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. At the same time, because Sword King City was dealing with the foreign tribes of the western region, they didn't attract the attention of the Righteous Path sections. Otherwise, if they brought their methods to the Righteous Path sects, they would definitely be banished to the diabolical path. Heavenly King Shen deliberately waited for a while. Seeing that Ling Yunzi didn't say anything, he shook his head and sighed. Looks like sect leader Ling Yunzi can't take out anything to tempt Sword King City. Then I'm sorry. This time, don't blame Sword King City for not standing on your side. Heavenly King Shen was a man who looked rough on the surface but was actually very meticulous. Sword King City didn't stand on anyone's side. They only thought from their own standpoint. Sword King City had sided with the righteous path during the Great War between moon-worshipping sect and the diabolical path because Yi Shaonan, the current #1 cultivator of the diabolical path, was too powerful. This time, Sword King City had chosen to stand on Chu Xiu's side. It actually didn't have much to do with Fang Qishao. It was just that the sword pill, a long-lost cultivation technique, was indeed very tempting to a swordsman. Moreover, this time, the diabolical path had been forced into a corner. Therefore, it was necessary for him to switch sides. With the participation of the Sword King City cultivators, the situation on the battlefield had been completely reversed. Although Shang Tianyang's side was heavily injured, It was still no problem for him to deal with a true fire cultivator at the spirit refinement stage. The remaining ones, Lu Fengxian, Lu Jianghu, and the others, were all people who could fight one against many. In this way, the scales of victory had already been tipped. Intense killing intent flashed across Ling Yunzi's eyes when he saw this. He couldn't let this drag on any longer. Originally, he wanted to exhaust Chu Xiu to death. However, with the addition of Sword King City, he might not be able to exhaust Chu Xiu to death. Instead, he might be the one who couldn't hold on for much longer. The diabolical path had an alliance, but the core of the alliance was Chu Xiu. As long as Chu Xiu didn't die, the alliance wouldn't be destroyed. The righteous path was also an alliance, but even they didn't know what the core of the alliance was. Some did it for personal grudges, some to eliminate demons, and some for benefits. All kinds of people were mixed in. It was fine when the wind was favorable, but once they encountered adversity, it was likely that they would be the first to collapse. Ling Yunzi's long sword slashed across his palm, causing hot blood to splatter along the pure yang sword. The long sword pointed to the sky. At this moment, the world seemed to come to a standstill as the grand sun's radiance poured into Ling Yunzi's body. Experts at the mysterious heaven and earth realm could control a part of the world, but this part of the world also had a limit. Ling Yunzi couldn't control the power of the grand sun. But now, he had forcibly used the pure yang divine weapon as a guide to guide the power of the grand sun into his part of the world and reshape the blazing sun. Sensing this power, Chu Xiu's figure quickly retreated. Although it was worth showing off to force an expert at the mysterious heaven and earth realm to the extreme, it was also extremely dangerous. However, the moment Chu Xiu's figure moved, an endless pulling force suddenly came from behind him, pulling Chu Xiu toward the place where the blazing sun was rising. Like the morning sun rising from the east, the blazing sun grew bigger and bigger, and the pulling force also grew stronger. Forced into a corner, Chu Xiu had no choice but to temporarily give up on escaping. The next moment, boundless blood qi bloomed and rose around his body. Between heaven and earth, the angry roars of demons and gods resounded one after another. Once the blood demon transformation technique was used, the powerful force was even able to compete with the current Ling Yunzi. However, the power of the blood demon transformation technique only existed for a moment. In the next moment, it was already enveloped by the endless grand sun's radiance. Seeing this scene, Heavenly King Shin's expression immediately changed. He didn't care if Chu Xiu died, but the problem was, you should first take out the sword sphere before you die. Now that you're dead, who do we care about getting the sword sphere? As expected, the next time he did something like this, it was more reliable to first ask for the deposit. At this moment, Wei Xia saw that Chu Xiu was enveloped by the grand sun's radiance. His expression suddenly changed, and he immediately wanted to rescue him. This time, he was already prepared to die. He was an old man with one foot in the grave. If he died, then so be it. However, if Chu Xiu also died, then the Hidden Devil clan would be completely destroyed. However, before he could move, Lu Jianghu stopped him. Narrowing his eyes, he said, "Don't worry, I won't die so easily." With the sect leader's eternal demon pill, no matter how big of a death he seeks, he will still have a chance of survival. Moreover, do you really think that kid is the kind of person who would sacrifice himself for others? Don't joke around. If he didn't have a foolproof plan, he wouldn't have fought head-on. Chapter 1030. Lu Jianghu was definitely not the person closest to Chu Xiu, but he could be considered the person who understood Chu Xiu the most. If Chu Xiu died so easily, then he would not be Chu Xiu. Sure enough, under Ling Yunzi's powerful attack, the area within a few miles with the two of them as the epicenter had already been scorched. The ground had been melted by the scorching high temperature, turning into a pool of strange crystals that shone with a glazed luster. A blood cocoon stood on the ground where Chu Xiu had been. In the next moment, the blood cocoon split open, revealing Chu Xiu's pale face. The all-out attack of a heaven and earth abstruse realm expert was indeed not that easy to resist. If Ling Yunzi had been a little stronger, even with the blood demon transformation technique, Chu Xiu would not have been able to resist it. Moreover, the effects of the undying demon pill were also able to display the greatest power under such a powerful force. When the powerful pure yang energy penetrated the blood cocoon and attacked Chu Xiu's body, if it had been anyone else, their injuries would have become more and more serious. However, because of the eternal demon pill, as long as this force was not strong enough to destroy Chu Xiu's body in an instant, the eternal demon pill could temporarily offset this force. Ling Yunzi looked at Chu Xiu. The fear in his eyes could not be any greater. Chu Xiu had used true fire to resist the all-out attack of a heaven and earth abstruse realm expert, but he could still resist it. This kind of strength was already extremely shocking. Although Chu Xiu was powerful now, he was still young. Everyone thought that the most terrifying thing about Chu Xiu was his strength and his ruthless methods. However, they did not know that the most terrifying thing about Chu Xiu was his age, because there were countless possibilities in his future. In time, would he become the next Yi Xiaonan? Would he become the next Dugu Weiwei? Ling Yunzi didn't dare to continue thinking about it. At this moment, his fear of Chu Xiu had reached its peak. The entire Hidden Devil clan was not as threatening as Chu Xiu. He had made up his mind that he must kill Chu Xiu on the spot this time. Even if he was injured, he must kill Chu Xiu. However, at this moment, a warrior from the real martial arts sect took out a matrix board. The matrix Dao's radiance flickered on it and converged into runes that flowed into his body. After he finished reading the contents of the rune, the expression of the martial artist of the real martial sect suddenly changed. He shouted, "Not good. Sect leader, Eastern Qi has retreated." Just now, there was news that the cultivators from overseas had attacked the border of Eastern Qi. Because there was no one there to defend Eastern Qi, they had already lost 2 counties in a single day. Eastern Qi has now recalled all the strong armies of the 9 borders. At the same time, the 5 armies of the northern Yan state have begun to march towards Shangmang Mountain to support Wei County. Upon hearing this, everyone's expression changed. No one had expected that the first to retreat this time would not be them, but Eastern Qi. However, they couldn't do anything about it. The righteous martial arts world and the Eastern Qi imperial court had only joined forces. What could they do if Eastern Qi wanted to retreat? Moreover, based on Lu Haochang's character, if Lu Haochang didn't retreat after such a major incident, he wouldn't be Lu Haochang. If it had been a decisive and courageous emperor, they might have persisted. After all, the northern Yan side was on the verge of collapse. It wouldn't be too late to deal with the cultivators of Eastern Sea after they had completely defeated the northern Yan. After all, the latter was just a minor ailment. With just the cultivators of Eastern Sea, they couldn't directly occupy Eastern Qi. However, the problem was that Lu Haochang didn't have the courage to do so. For Lu Haochang, being able to protect the family property left behind by his ancestors was enough. He didn't care about other achievements if he could get them. His bottom line was to protect the family property of his ancestors. Therefore, he didn't dare to take this gamble. When the crowd heard the news of Eastern Qi's retreat, the cultivators of Eastern Qi's righteous sects, some of them were rogue cultivators, and people from other sections. They looked at each other and quietly withdrew from the battle. With the retreat of Eastern Qi, they had already lost this round. If they continued to fight, they would only increase the number of casualties. There was no point in continuing. They came here for the benefits. Now that they couldn't see any benefits, what was the point of continuing to fight? Their departure was like an avalanche, causing a chain reaction. Those who originally didn't plan to leave also began to retreat. The righteous sects were an alliance to begin with. During the first battle, there was already a sense of instability. This time, it was even more so. Seeing those from the alliance of the righteous sects retreating one by one, Han Jusi and the others wanted to stop them, but how could they? In an instant, the righteous sects, who had the advantage in numbers, suddenly lost nearly half of their members. Chu Xiu looked at Ling Yunzi with a pale face and sneered, "Leader Ling Yunzi, continue to fight. Let's make a bet. Let's see if it's me or your side that can't hold on first." Ling Yunzi's face was extremely gloomy. The scene in front of him was almost exactly the same as the time when he led Chunyang Dao sect to attack Chu Xiu. He was once again caught in a dilemma. He could see that Chu Xiu was not in a good state at this time. Although he could resist the power of the mysterious realm of heaven and earth, he was after all not in the mysterious realm of heaven and earth. He could hold on for a while, but Ling Yunzi did not believe that he could hold on until the end. However, the problem was that half of the people from the righteous sects had left. The disciples on his side were also in low spirits. On the other hand, although everyone on the side of the diabolism was also injured, their spirits were high. In this way, if the battle continued, would the Chunyang Dao sect, the real martial arts sect, and the other sects be able to hold on? So now, they were in this awkward situation again. After a long while, Ling Yunzi closed his eyes and shouted in a low voice, "Retreat!" He still did not have the determination to perish together with Chu Xiu. It should be said that even if he had the determination, the Chunyang Dao sect did not. With the Chunyang Dao sect's retreat, the alliance of the righteous sects had completely collapsed. This made all the diabolism martial artists present heave a sigh of relief. They did not win this time, but they had successfully pulled through. Before anyone could say anything, Heavenly King Shen had already walked over with his people. He looked at Chu Xiu without saying a word. His intention was already very clear. Chu Xiu did not mind. He directly threw the sword ball to Heavenly King Shen. This thing was useless to him, so it was worth it to exchange it for Sword King City's help. Fang Qi Shao chuckled at the side and said, "Brother Chu, you have to thank me this time. Those guys from the Chunyang Dao sect attacked you, but I stood firmly on your side. You are the landlord over at Northern Yen. In the future, when I come to Northern Yen, will I not have to spend money to visit the brothels? Drag him away." Heavenly King Shen roared with a dark face. Bai Qian immediately dragged Fang Qi Shao away, lest he tarnished Sword King City's reputation. In the past, Chu Xiu and Fang Qi Shao were of the same generation, but they were all elites on the Longhu list. But looking at Chu Xiu and then at Fang Qi Shao, Heavenly King Shen had the urge to drag the seventh young master out and beat him up. He coughed and said in a low voice, "Official Chu, where did you find this sword ball? If you find a relic of a Sword Dao elite, Sword King City is willing to pay a high price for it." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "I'm afraid you'll be disappointed, sect leader Shen. I found this sword ball by accident overseas. I didn't find any relic." Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Heavenly King Shen could only give up. But he still asked curiously, "Official Chu, there's something I'm curious about. How did you convince those overseas people to help? I've come into contact with those overseas martial artists. They're a bunch of people who won't do anything unless they see something good. They won't help unless they see something good in it. Especially that fifth Lord Hua from Paragon Island. That old man is not easy to deal with." Of course, if this matter is related to some secrets of Official Chu, it's fine if you don't tell me. I'm just a little curious. Heavenly King Shen was also aware of his status. Although he was on Chu Xiu's side this time, it didn't mean he would always be on Chu Xiu's side. They couldn't be considered allies. It was just an exchange of benefits. It was normal that Chu Xiu didn't tell him. At that moment, Wei Shuya and the other hidden demons were all looking at Chu Xiu. Clearly, they were also a little curious about what Chu Xiu had done overseas. There was no need to hide these things. Chu Xiu just smiled and said, "It's very simple. When I first came to overseas, they weren't very willing to cooperate with me, especially that fifth Lord Hua. So I killed that fifth Lord Hua and destroyed Paragon Island. Then, I let those who were willing to cooperate with me and help me control overseas. That's all." Hearing Chu Xiu tell the story so casually, everyone present felt a chill in their hearts. Chu Xiu had actually overturned all the forces in the Endless Sea Islands after a trip to the Endless Sea Islands. This kind of behavior was simply chilling. He had said it casually, but in reality, who knew how many people had been killed and how much blood had been shed? Even Heavenly King Shen had to admit that he was impressed. He immediately bid farewell and left. He didn't dare to listen anymore. He was afraid that if he did, he would hear something that would ruin his worldview. After Heavenly King Shen left, Chu Xiu cupped his fists at everyone present. "Everyone, thank you for your hard work." The hidden demons regarded Chu Xiu as their core, but they couldn't ignore the role of others. If it weren't for them, even if Chu Xiu had persuaded the East Sea forces to help, the Northern Yin wouldn't have lasted until now. But this battle wasn't without benefits. Although Chu Xiu had lost some of his subordinates, some of them had become much stronger. Lu Fengxian had already stepped into the true fire spirit refinement stage. Even Chu Xiu was extremely surprised. Among the elites on the Longhu leaderboard, Chu Xiu, Zhong Xian, and Zhang Qingjin were recognized as the strongest. Although Lu Fengxian had become a hot topic because of Yan Fian, most people still thought that Lu Fengxian couldn't compare to those three. But now, Lu Fengxian had become the second person on the Longhu leaderboard to step into the true fire spirit refinement stage in Chu Xiu's generation. This was enough to shock everyone. Chapter 1031. Lu Fengxian's improvement was obvious to all, but the others, such as Mei Qinglian, were not bad either. Although Mei Qinglian had not stepped into the true fire spirit refinement realm, Chu Xiu could feel that she was only one step away from it. Perhaps if she went into seclusion again, she would be in the true fire spirit refinement realm. Shang Tianliang said impatiently, "Kid, if you had been more magnanimous last time and let me bring everyone from Merchant City out, we might not have had such a hard time this time." Chu Xiu said directly, "No problem, I will bring everyone from Merchant City out of Green City next time." Shang Tianliang looked at Chu Xiu suspiciously. Since when was this kid so generous? Chu Xiu was not being generous, but Shang Tianliang had wholeheartedly stood by his side this time, which had won Chu Xiu's trust. Chu Xiu was a very suspicious person, but on the other hand, if someone could win Chu Xiu's trust, Chu Xiu would also give them enough benefits without asking for anything in return. Wei Shia said in a low voice, "It's good that we won. My Devil Dao has experienced so many ups and downs over the years, it's not easy for us to persevere until now. Although it was dangerous this time, I know that my Devil Dao can still pull through." Chu Wuji teased, "Old Wei, that's not what you said before. You were prepared to risk your life to cover the retreat." Wei Shia glared at him and said, "What does the Devil Dao being able to pull through have to do with me dying or not? Don't bicker here." Wei Shia waved his hand and said, "All right, we can talk when we get back. First, send the injured to Divine Dr. Feng for treatment." In this battle, the hidden Devil Dao had suffered a lot of losses. Just the casualties of the low-level warriors alone was close to 1/5. If other sects had suffered such losses, they would have collapsed long ago. It was only because of Chu Xiu and Wei Shia's high prestige that they were able to hold on until now. Just then, Zhao Yuanfeng walked over and said humbly, "Official Chu, this time, Jiangshan Pavilion doesn't want to be your enemy. However, the Eastern Qi had lied to us, and we knew that the Northern Yen was using us. That was why we betrayed them. Please forgive us, Official Chu." Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, "Pavilion Master Zhao, don't worry about it. I know your difficulties. People in the pugilistic world can't help themselves. I, Chu Xiu, am a man of my word. I said that I won't hold you accountable, so I won't. All you have to do is head to the Northern Yen Empire and apologize to His Majesty, and this matter will be resolved. You might even be able to keep your Weigua." Zhao Yuanfeng didn't expect that Chu Xiu, who was rumored to be narrow-minded and vengeful, would have such a magnanimous side. He was even prepared to pay a huge price, but Chu Xiu had let it go so easily. It seemed that sometimes the rumors were not true. Although this official Chu was ruthless, he was still very broad-minded. After Zhao Yuanfeng left, everyone looked at Chu Xiu in surprise. Chu Xiu was puzzled. "Everyone, why are you looking at me like that?" Lu Jianghu was puzzled. "Since when did you become so generous? You let this two-faced guy go just like that?" Chu Xiu said indifferently, "It's because he's a two-faced person that I chose to let him go. Zhao Yuanfeng, or rather, the entire Jiangshan Pavilion, has nothing but profit in their eyes. When I killed his adoptive father, did you see any sadness in him? People like him aren't scary. As long as I maintain my strength, he won't dare to do anything to me. Moreover, this time, Zhao Yuanfeng has truly offended Eastern Qi. Traitors are detestable, but traitors who betray us twice are even more detestable. If the Northern Yen Empire doesn't take him in, There's no place for him in Jiangshan Pavilion among the Central Plains warriors. After saying this, the others wasted no time. They quickly brought the man back to the suppression hall and handed him over to Feng Bupo for treatment. Meanwhile, Chu Xiu had also heard about the recent happenings. When he heard that Siduqi had joined forces with Si Wuya and the others to rob the lurking devil progeny, Chu Xiu's foundation, killing intent flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes. In order to resist foreign aggression, one must first find a time to deal with these fellows. In truth, the Kunlun devil cult had experienced something similar when they rose to power. However, at that time, Dugu Weiwei and the Kunlun devil cult were powerful enough. Their methods were simple and brutal. There was only one word to describe it: kill. After killing all those who opposed the Kunlun demon sect to the point of begging for mercy, shouting for the sacred sect to last for 10,000 generations, the entire Kunlun demon sect would naturally be unified, and there would be no more voices of opposition. Now, Chu Xiu wanted to do the same. With his current strength, it wouldn't be difficult for him to get rid of this bunch of guys. However, Chu Xiu had too many things to deal with. Moreover, there were people like the Crimson Drill Devil sect and Umoya who remained neutral in the lurking devil progeny. If Chu Xiu decided to kill them, they might attack or stop him. Therefore, Chu Xiu had to think of a suitable reason to kill them. After listening to them, Chu Xiu told them about his journey overseas. Although everyone already knew that Chu Xiu had gone on a killing spree in the Outer Sea, after hearing Chu Xiu recount everything in detail, they could not help feeling horrified. At the same time, they also observed a moment of silence for the cultivators of the Outer Sea. This time, it was a fierce battle between Chu Xiu and the righteous path of martial arts. In the end, the biggest loss was not on Chu Xiu's side, nor on the righteous path of martial arts. It was actually on the side of the martial arts overseas. This was a little funny. Especially when they heard that Huixingzuan wanted to adopt Chu Xiu as his son, they thought that Huixingzuan was simply tired of living too long. Or perhaps, even God felt that he had lived for too long. Therefore, he lost his mind at the critical moment and made such a suicidal decision. At this time, Chu Xiu suddenly asked Lu Jianghe, "I met a cultivator by Huixingzuan's side. He used the most orthodox inheritance of the Kunlun devil cult. He knew my Triple City Annihilation Arrow and Patriarch Dugu's Heavenly Demon Palm. At the same time, he also condensed a Dharma idol. The Dharma idol's chest was transparent, but it could absorb and distort the power of Earth Chi. I searched his memory, and in the end, I saw two corpses emitting devil Chi sitting on the bronze thrones. His devil cult martial arts came from there. Old Lu, can you see the identity of the other party from these fragments?" Lu Jiang suddenly stood up and said with a slightly excited voice, "One of them is the Heartless Demon Lord. That is the unique Dharma idol of the Heartless Demon Lord. And if I didn't guess wrongly, those two people are definitely two of the four great demon lords. That bronze throne is the exclusive seat of our holy cult's demon lords. Only the four great demon lords are qualified to have it. Old man Wei should know this." Wei Xia nodded at the side and said, "It's more or less like that. Now, when the hidden devil lineage is having a meeting, the bronze throne that they sit on is an imitation of the four great demon lords of the past. However, the real bronze throne had already disappeared when the Kunlun devil cult was destroyed." Lu Jiang continued, "It's very normal for them to know the Triple City Annihilation Arrow. The Triple City Annihilation Arrow was brought out by the cult leader from the Black Sky Demon Cult. Anyone who is interested can go and cultivate it. It's just that other than the cult leader, no one can comprehend the essence of the World Annihilation Flame. Or perhaps it's not compatible with the Triple City Annihilation Arrow. So even if they cultivated it, they almost never used it. You brat, your luck is really not bad. You actually managed to find this opportunity after a trip overseas." Everyone present subconsciously looked at Lu Fengxian. In terms of luck, Chu Xiu really couldn't be compared to this person. Chu Xiu nodded and said, "So I'm going to wait for a few days. After everyone has recuperated, I'll go to the East Sea again to find the inheritance of the two demon lords." After exchanging a few more pleasantries with everyone went back to cultivating and recuperating. However, Chu Xiu noticed that Lu Fengxian didn't go to cultivate. He couldn't help but be surprised and said, "Brother Lu, aren't you going to go into seclusion for a period of time to stabilize your realm?" Lu Fengxian scratched his head and said, "I don't seem to need to stabilize my realm. When I stepped into the true fire spirit refinement realm, Lu Wenho's primordial spirit fragment had already completely fused with me. So now, not only do I not need to cultivate, but I also feel that I have complete control of the power of the true fire spirit refinement realm." Chu Xiu couldn't help but be speechless when he heard that. Just now, Lu Jianghu said that he was lucky. The person who really had great luck was still Lu Fengxian. "Brother Chu, you seem to have to be careful this time. I can feel that the Chunyang Dao sect, or rather, the entire Orthodox Dao sect, won't let this go. The next time they make a move, I'm afraid their power won't be like this now." Lu Fengxian wasn't very good at such tactics, but even if he wasn't good at it, he could feel the threat that Chu Xiu posed to the entire Orthodox Dao sect. He had threatened the Great Light Temple, started a massacre in the East Sea, and destroyed the Orthodox Dao Alliance. Everything that Chu Xiu had done was no less threatening than Yi Xiaonan's. When Chu Xiu didn't have Yi Xiaonan's strength, he already had a threat that was comparable to Yi Xiaonan's. If Chu Xiu reached Yi Xiaonan's realm, how terrifying would he be? Other people didn't dare to think about this, nor did they dare to say it. Anyway, if the next Orthodox Dao War started again, it would probably be the time when life and death would really be decided. Chu Xiu said faintly, "I've also thought about this, but when they make a move next time, Chu Xiu, won't be the current Chu Xiu. They can't do anything to me now, and they won't be able to do anything to me in the future." Hearing Chu Xiu say this, Lu Fengxian felt at ease, because Chu Xiu wasn't a person who would boast. He would only say such words if he had the ability. Lu Fengxian had many friends, but there weren't many of them who knew each other until the end. Chu Xiu was a good friend that he had known since he was insignificant, so he didn't want anything to happen to Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu had helped him too much, but his strength was limited, so he could only repay Chu Xiu this much. When the next Orthodox Dao War started, even if the threat was greater and the strength was stronger, Lu Fengxian would still charge forward with his halberd. Chapter 1032. Chu Xiu stayed in Jianghu Hall for 3 months. During these 3 months, Chu Xiu was not idle. After the war, as the leader of the Yinma clan, Jianghu Hall and other forces, there were too many things for him to deal with. He needed to report to the Northern Yan Imperial Court. After the war, the Northern Yan was the winner because they defeated Eastern Qi once again and completely destroyed the last bit of ambition of Lu Haochang. Therefore, from now until Lu Haochang died, the Northern Yan did not have to worry about the threat from Eastern Qi. At the same time, Zhao Yuanfeng also went to the Northern Yan Imperial Court to apologize. His attitude was very humble. Chu Xiu also found a time to go to Ludu and bring out the last people in the shopping mall. In fact, Chu Xiu was also interested in the other people in the shopping mall, but he did not take action. The reason was very simple. Those people were not people that he could control. The reason why Chu Xiu could control the people in the shopping mall was because of Shang Tianliang. Now Shang Tianliang was completely on his side, and Shang Tianliang could completely control the shopping mall. As for the other people in Ludu, Chu Xiu dared not guarantee. As for Mei Qinglian, she had successfully stepped into the true fire spiritual refinement realm in less than a month. Chu Xiu was waiting at the door to welcome her. Seeing Chu Xiu standing there, Mei Qinglian smiled proudly and said, "In the past, I was always here to welcome you when you came out. It's rare for me to have this kind of treatment." Chu Xiu's talent was undoubtedly very despairing. At the very least, Mei Qinglian had seen Chu Xiu break through in seclusion many times. Every time, Chu Xiu would bring her a pleasant surprise or a shock. But this time, when she broke through to the true fire spirit refining realm, she dared not say that she could be compared with Chu Xiu, but at least she would not be defeated like this every time. Mei Qinglian, who had just stepped into the true fire spirit refinement realm, had an extremely strange feeling. Although her appearance had not changed at all, her temperament had become even more beautiful and alluring. She was extremely alluring, and even Chu Xiu was stunned when he first saw her. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "It's fine. You'll get used to welcoming me when I come out of seclusion later." Mei Qinglian was so shocked that she covered her mouth. "You're going to step into the mysterious state of heaven and earth?" If it was anyone else, Mei Qinglian would definitely think that they were daydreaming. But if it was Chu Xiu, it might not be the case. Chu Xiu said seriously, "Take a guess." After saying that, Chu Xiu left, leaving Mei Qinglian in shock. She really couldn't tell if Chu Xiu was telling the truth or lying to her. 3 months later, Chu Xiu was almost done with the matters on his side, so he prepared to head overseas. Because this matter was related to the demon Dao, Chu Xiu only brought people from the hidden demon clan with him. There were Wuxia, Lu Jianghu, Mei Qinglian, and Chu Wuji. Since Chu Xiu had just started fighting with Eastern Qi, it was not appropriate for him to go from Eastern Qi. Therefore, like last time, he went to the 6th demon sect in the South Sea, borrowed a boat from Yi Buxuan, and sailed from the South Sea to the East Sea. At the Supreme Island in the East Sea, the name of the island had been changed to Qingfeng Island. Bai Donglai was quite good at winning over the hearts of the people. He knew that he could not compare to Hua Xingzuan, who walked the path of absolute power. Therefore, he chose to walk the path of being close to the people. Pak Donglai publicly announced that there were no Supremes in the breezy ocean, so Supreme Island was changed to Qingfeng Island. This meant that it was an island shared by all martial artists in the breezy ocean and anyone could get on the island. But in reality, Supreme Island was still managed by Pak Donglai and the others. At the moment, Pak Donglai was dealing with some complicated matters on Supreme Island. As the actual manager of the breezy ocean, Pak Donglai had a bunch of troublesome matters to deal with. Suddenly, a servant came to report that official Chu had returned. Pak Donglai was shocked. That's right. There was only shock, no joy. After the battle on Supreme Island, Pak Donglai witnessed Chu Xiu's frighteningly powerful strength. But at the same time, he was extremely fearful of that strength. Working with Chu Xiu once was enough. He followed Chu Xiu's request to attack Eastern Qi and loot a large amount of resources. Initially, he thought that the contact between them would end like that. When Chu Xiu said that they would meet again, Pak Donglai thought that it was just a polite remark from Chu Xiu. He didn't expect him to really come looking for him. While Pak Donglai didn't know what to do, he was also wondering what Chu Xiu was trying to do by coming here. Could it be that he has ulterior motives for the East Sea? Despite his suspicions, Pak Donglai quickly adjusted his mentality and walked out with a warm smile on his face. When he saw Chu Xiu, Wuxia, and the others in the hall, Pak Donglai was shocked. Wuxia, Lu Jianghu, Mei Qinglian, and Chu Wuji were all in the true fire spirit refinement state. He couldn't see through 3 of them. Was this Chu Xiu's strength in the Central Plains? It was terrifying. At the thought of this, Pak Donglai became even more humble. He lowered his head and bowed to Chu Xiu. "I didn't expect to see official Chu again so soon. It seems like the crisis in the Central Plains has been resolved by official Chu. Congratulations." When Wuxia and the others saw Pak Donglai's attitude, they were all surprised. There was no other reason other than the fact that the current master of the East Sea was simply too humble in front of Chu Xiu. It could even be said that he was bowing and scraping. What exactly did Chu Xiu do in the East Sea to actually scare him to such an extent? Seeing Pak Donglai's expression, Chu Xiu could almost guess what was on his mind. He smiled and said, "Don't be nervous, Mr. Bo. I'm not interested in the underworld forces in the East Sea. I'm only here to look for something." Pak Donglai let out a sigh of relief and laughed. "What are you talking about, official Chu? Why would I be nervous? Whatever official Chu is looking for, I'll do my best to cooperate with him." Chu Xiu drew the sea map that the inner demon had extracted from Shadow's memory. Of course, it was somewhat specious. "I'm looking for an island in this sea. I'm not familiar with the overseas area, so I'll need your help, Mr. Bo." Hearing that it was just a small matter, Pak Donglai let out a sigh of relief. However, when Pak Donglai saw the sea map, Pak Donglai frowned and said, "It's a little difficult for official Chu to find the place. Looking at the approximate location of the sea, this place should be in between the wind-splitting sea and the wind-splitting sea. However, the sea is too big and boundless. There are fixed routes between the wind-splitting sea and the wind-splitting sea. I've traveled between these two places several times in my early years, but I've never seen this sea. Moreover, the map's description is too vague. It's difficult to find the location by relying on it. After saying this, Pak Donglai noticed that Chu Xiu's eyes seemed to be a little gloomy. He quickly said, "Of course, it's not that there's no other way. I might not be able to find it, but some people might. Go, find Old Song for me." After saying that, Pak Donglai directly ordered someone to bring a skinny old man. He only had the strength of the Xiantian realm. After seeing Pak Donglai, the old man looked very frightened. Pak Donglai pointed to the old man and said, "This person is Fu Longxiao's subordinate, the oldest helmsman in the Blue Dragon Fleet. He has been at sea since he was born. He followed Fu Longxiao to the wind-splitting sea and the wind-splitting sea countless times. He's very experienced. I might not be able to find the location on the map, but Old Song might be able to." After saying that, Pak Donglai turned his gaze to Old Song and said, "Old Song, this is an opportunity for you. Help official Chu find this place. Although the Blue Dragon Fleet is gone, my Taiyan Yishui Hall's fleet is still here. When the time comes, I'll give you a ship and let you be the captain." When Old Song heard this, he quickly patted his chest and said, "Sir, rest assured, this old man has drifted on the sea for a lifetime. This old man knows how many trees are on each island. I won't let you down." Fu Longxiao's Blue Dragon Fleet has long been cleaned up by Pak Donglai. This Old Song was able to escape this calamity because he's just a nobody. Chu Xiu threw the map to Old Song and asked, "How sure are you?" Old Song carefully stared at the map for a long time and said, "I can't say that I'm 100% sure, but I've been to places adjacent to this sea. I can calculate the approximate location. I'm about 80% sure." Hearing Old Song say this, Chu Xiu didn't delay and directly brought Old Song to the wind-splitting sea to find the place. This Old Song is worthy of Pak Donglai's recommendation. He has some real ability. Just by relying on a blurry sea map, the other party actually managed to find the sea within a month. The place is located at the junction of the wind-splitting sea and the wind sea, but it's extremely remote. Moreover, it's full of wind and waves. Ships don't choose this place as their route. Therefore, after so many years, except for Ying, no one has discovered this place. Old Song pointed to an island in the distance and said, "Sir, there's only one island in this sea. If there's no problem, it should be there." After finding the place, Old Song breathed a sigh of relief. This kind of mission from a big shot. If done well, there'll be rewards. If not done well, it'll become a suicide mission. Chu Xiu nodded and said, "All right, you wait here for a while, we'll go to the island." After saying that, Chu Xiu and Wei Shuya and the others went to the island. Just as they stepped on the island, Chu Xiu and the others felt an extremely pure devil qi. They looked at each other. Sure enough, it should be here. Following the devil qi, everyone carefully searched and finally found the source of the devil qi. It's a bottomless cave. Heartless Demon Venerable and another Demon Venerable from the Kunlun Devil Cult should have fallen here. Chapter 1033. In the pitch-black cave, waves of pure devil qi came rushing over. Chu Xiu did not rashly enter, because he remembered that Ying had entered before, and only escaped when he was on the verge of death. Ying was a rogue cultivator from the wind-splitting sea, and his good friends should also be in the true fire spirit refinement realm, but they all died here. One could imagine how dangerous this cave was. Chu Xiu said to Lu Jianghe, "What kind of people were the heartless demon venerable and the other demon venerables of the devil cult in the past? What tricks did they leave behind?" Lu Jianghe did not even think about it and said, "Other than Red Lotus Demon Venerable, there is no good thing. Besides, think about it, they have become demon venerables. How can they be good people? All of them are people who can be struck by lightning. If they left any tricks here, needless to say, it must be extremely dangerous." Chu Xiu thought about it and it was indeed so. Danger was certain, so they could only be careful. Chu Xiu was still the first to take the lead. Among the people present, he was the strongest, and his skin was thick, so he had a stronger resistance to danger. Just as they entered the cave, they found a broken corpse in front of them. Jianghu glanced at the formation under the corpse's feet and sighed. Reverse heavenly demon formation. All the true chi of those who enter the formation will be twisted into devil chi, and if they can't hold on, they will directly explode and die. This formation should have been drawn by Heartless or someone else with the power of chi and blood, and its power is even more powerful. Someone has already been hit. But this guy is not weak, he can actually struggle and completely tear the formation apart, but he also can't hold on, so he took the knife for you. Chu Xiao and the others walked along, and surprisingly, they did not encounter any dangerous things. But in fact, to be precise, there were extremely dangerous and vicious traps along the way, and Jianghu knew all of them. They were all the tricks of the Kunlun devil cult in the past. Fortunately, almost all of Obscurus's good friends had sacrificed their lives to avoid these traps, which benefited Chu Xiao and the others. However, when everyone arrived at the bottom of the cave, the demonic aura became denser and denser. There was even a strong stench mixed within it. When Chu Xiao and the others walked to the end of the cave, they all gasped when they saw what was inside. At the end of the cave was a large hall, but at this moment, they could not see the scene inside the hall clearly. This was because the entire hall was covered by a huge black snake. That black snake was incomparably huge. Its waist was several feet thick, and because it was coiled up, its length was simply immeasurable. The most terrifying thing was that on top of the black snake's head, there were actually two horns faintly emerging, impressively a sign that it was about to transform into a flood dragon. In Obscurus memory fragments, he walked out of the cave, but he was still being chased by something. Now, it seemed that it was this thing that was chasing him. In Ying's memory fragments, he walked out of the cave, but he was still being chased by something. Now it seemed that it was this thing that was chasing him. The aura of this thing could be said to be terrifying. It could even make Chu Xiao feel a sense of oppression. At this time, Jianghu was surprised. It's Xiaohe, but how did Xiaohe grow so big? Xiaohe? Jianghu nodded and said, Xiaohe is the pet of Heartless Demon Venerable. It is said to be a giant python with the bloodline of the ancient black dragon. At that time, as long as someone provoked Heartless Demon Venerable, he would break their limbs and feed them to Xiaohe. In the end, this beast's mouth became picky, and it didn't eat anything below the real pellet state. But Xiaohe shouldn't be so big at that time. Beasts are different from humans. Even after 500 years, it is impossible to grow so big. As Jianghu muttered, he suddenly saw a blood-colored mark on the black snake's forehead. His expression suddenly changed as he said, the Heartless Demon Venerable is using his heart's blood to feed Xiaohe. No wonder it has grown to this extent. As he said that, the black snake seemed to sense the movement outside. It slowly opened its eyes and looked at Chu Xiao and others. Jianghu walked forward with a smile on his face and greeted, Xiaohe, do you still recognize me? I even killed 2 bald donkeys from the Great Light Temple to feed you. Heartless Demon Venerable said that the bald donkeys from the Great Light Temple have a chewy taste, and you like them the most. The black snake's scarlet vertical pupils stared at Jianghu. The next moment, it opened its mouth, and a black venom burst directly at Jianghu. Jianghu's figure turned into a bloody light, and he immediately dodged. The black venom fell on the ground, and it actually corroded a huge pit. It was bottomless. One could imagine how terrifying the venom was. Chu Xiao looked at Jianghu with a weird face. This is the Xiaohe you said? It doesn't seem to be familiar with you. Jianghu said with a depressed face, it must be because of the Heartless Demon Venerable's heart's blood mark. Even if this beast has the black dragon bloodline, it is only a trace. It can't bear the Heartless Demon Venerable's heart's blood mark at all. You don't know how strong Heartless Demon Venerable is. With Ling Yunzi's virtue, Heartless Demon Venerable can kill him with one slap. This beast obtained the Heartless Demon Venerable's heart's blood, but it is unable to digest it. It must have hurt its intelligence, and now it has completely gone crazy. As soon as Jianghu finished speaking, the huge black snake swung its tail at him. Its power was overwhelming. If it was not for the fact that the cave was too small and affected its performance, it might have been able to shatter a mountain. Lu Jianghu and the rest dodged at the same time and attacked. However, they were depressed to find out that their attacks were almost useless. The defensive power of the black snake's scales was simply too shocking. Chu Wuji's crescent blade slashed on the scales, but it actually only brought out a spark. Wei Xia and Lu Jianghu's attacks were also unable to penetrate the scales and cause any damage to it. Needless to say, Mei Qinglian, her beauty technique was useless against beasts. The evil moon saber appeared in Chu Xiu's hand and he attacked with all his might. The moment the saber intent of the break formula appeared, the unstoppable sharpness tore the black scales apart, causing a large amount of blood to spurt out. However, for an existence like the black snake, it was obviously not very useful. Instead, it made it even more violent. Chu Xiu furrowed his brows. With these beasts guarding the place, it was going to be extremely difficult to obtain the items within. After thinking about it, Chu Xiu leaped out and jumped directly on the head of the black snake. The next moment, the Vairocana seal appeared behind him. The Buddha's light bloomed in his hand, and he directly pressed the head of the black snake and pressed it to the ground. The black snake could not stop struggling. Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "Help me stabilize it." Lu Jianghu and the rest immediately used their strongest power to suppress the body of the black snake. In the next moment, Chu Xiu's punches landed on the black snake's body one after another. However, his punches weren't made of astral energy, but pure mind power. The black snake had the blood of the black dragon, so it had some special abilities. Its scales were not afraid of metal, earth energy, and could even defend against mind power. However, at this time, Chu Xiu directly attached the strongest mind power to his fists and blasted into the body of the black snake, causing its mind to tremble. The strong mind power continuously blasted into the body of the black snake, accumulating little by little. In the end, the mind power of the black snake was completely shattered. The black snake finally stopped struggling and fell to the ground. Although its eyes were still blood red, they were no longer fierce. It was extremely lifeless. Although it did not die, it had become a walking corpse. It was directly blasted into a plant snake by Chu Xiu. Everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. No one expected that this thing would be so difficult to deal with. After passing through the body of the black snake, everyone saw the deepest part of the cave, where two figures were sitting on the bronze throne. One was tall and thin, with a gloomy face, which made people shudder. The other person was an old man whose entire body was shrouded in a black robe. Although these two people were already dead, there was still a strong demonic aura emitting from their bodies. Although they were just corpses, people could still feel how strong they were when they were alive. Chu Xiu turned his gaze to Lu Jianghu and said, "Is it the heartless demon Venerable?" Lu Jianghu nodded with a slightly complicated expression and said, "It is the heartless demon Venerable and the heaven-weeping demon Venerable. The heartless demon Venerable is gloomy and ruthless. Although his battle strength is not the strongest among the 4 demon Venerables, he is the one that the righteous sects do not want to fight. Because he is ruthless, because he is crazy, when he fights, he does not care about his life. In his eyes, there is no such thing as compromise, only life and death. Even in the Kunlun devil cult, most people do not dare to provoke him. It should be said that other than the sect leader, he does not have a good face to anyone. The one wrapped in the black robe is the heaven-weeping demon Venerable. His seniority is very high. Before the sect leader was born, he was already a giant of the demonic path. However, the heaven-weeping demon Venerable knows a lot of things. Back in the demonic path, the heaven-weeping demon Venerable is known as the number 1 diviner, number 1 formation deduction, number 1 blacksmith, and number 1 alchemist. In short, he knows a lot of things. Even if he is not the number 1 in the world, no one in the demonic path dares to compare with him. The formation outside should be his masterpiece. I should have guessed it long ago. To be able to set up such a powerful formation before death, there is no one other than the heaven-weeping demon Venerable. This old man is a good guy. If there is a problem with their weapon, he will not refuse to repair it. However, he has a bad habit. He always likes to chat with others. As he talks, he will start to bemoan the state of the universe and pity the fate of mankind. He will cry when he kills someone. After crying, he will continue to kill people. His crying makes me panic. When Lu Jianghu was talking about the two demon venerables, his emotions were a little complicated. The Kunlun devil cult has been destroyed for so many years. He was already mentally prepared. However, at this moment, when he saw the demonic experts who fought side by side with him in the past, at least he thought that he fought side by side with them and did not follow behind them to pick up people's heads. Now that he saw the two corpses, even if he was unreliable, he still felt a little sad. There was a feeling that things remain the same, but people have changed. Chapter 1034. Two of the Kunlun devil cult's demon lords had fallen here. From their current state, Chu Xiu could guess how tragic the battle had been. Lu Jianghu examined the two corpses and said in a low voice, "Heartless demon lord died because his meridians were destroyed by a strong sword aura. If I'm not wrong, the one who did this should be the Sword Emperor Jianghu of the Sword Hut. He was a swordsman of the older generation in the pugilistic world. He was once the number one swordsman in the world. However, sword sage Gu Qingqing was born. She was unparalleled in the world with her sword. Gu Qingqing once sparred with Jianghu. No one knew the result. After that, Jianghu went into seclusion and never appeared in the pugilistic world again. Everyone said that his heart of the sword was destroyed by Gu Qingqing and he was too ashamed to use a sword again. From the looks of it now, this old man was obviously hiding his strength. Gu Qingqing was the number one swordsman in the world. However, he, the number two, might not be any worse than Gu Qingqing. Demon Lord Tianhui had many injuries on his body. It was already impossible to count how many people had attacked him. Among the four demon lords, Demon Lord Tianhui was the weakest in terms of combat power. However, he had the most tricks. Back then, that group of people must have used up all of his tricks to injure him so badly that he was on the verge of death. Otherwise, with Demon Lord Tianhui's formation techniques, even a heaven and earth mysterious realm expert would not be able to break the formation outside, let alone a true fire spirit refinement realm warrior. Chu Xiu looked at the two corpses. Before they died, they still wanted to take out the bronze throne and sit on the throne, just like when the Kunlun devil cult was still around. Obviously, even though they knew that they were going to die, they still wanted to preserve the dignity of the Kunlun devil cult before they died. Right now, Wuxia and the others had a solemn look on their faces as well. Even though they were not the successors of these two demon lords, when they saw the two demon lords of the peak of their Kunlun demon cult fall here, their hearts were filled with a myriad of emotions. After a while, Chu Xiu asked, "Since the heartless demon venerable and the heaven-weeping demon venerable have fallen here, what do they intend to do now? Did they want to leave behind an inheritance or a trap? What are those things?" Previously, Shadow had obtained quite a number of things from here, including the heartless demon venerable's Dharma idol, the triple destruction city arrow, and the sky demon palm. But now, there was nothing here, and when Ying left, she was chased by the black snake and severely injured. No matter how one looked at it, this place didn't seem like a place where the two of them left their inheritance on purpose. Lu Jianghu chuckled and said, "These two aren't good people. The things they left behind are both inheritances and traps. Before they died, they must have suspected that someone was chasing after them. That was why they set up countless traps outside the cave. They've also left the inheritance behind, but that's just a bait. There's bound to be endless dangers within." Mei Qinglian frowned and said, "Didn't the two demon venerables think about what if a junior of the same lineage of Devil Dao finds their inheritance?" Lu Jianghu said indifferently, "According to the two of them, even if a junior finds their inheritance, if he can't decipher these mechanisms, then he's trash. What qualifications does a trash have to inherit the inheritance of the two demon venerables?" Mei Qinglian was instantly speechless. Although it sounded quite reasonable, why did she feel that something was wrong? Lu Jianghu pointed at the bronze throne and said, "These four thrones are actually made of ordinary bronze, but there are some arrays inscribed on it, so it's warm in winter and cool in summer, and it's quite comfortable to sit on. Back then, I wanted to ask the sect leader for one, but the sect leader was stingy and didn't give it to me. The four of them treasured this throne very much, and I can guarantee that the inheritance they left behind is under this throne. But you'd better be careful. Who knows what they left behind in here? Chu Xiu and the others looked at each other and moved the bodies of the two demon venerables to the side. Then, they controlled their vital qi and slowly pushed the two thrones away. In an instant, the array below the thrones shone brightly, and a pungent stench wafted over. Lu Jianghe's expression suddenly changed and he roared, "It's the heaven-devouring worm. Why did that old fart, sky-cry demon venerables, leave these things behind? Shouldn't they have been destroyed?" As soon as Lu Jianghe's voice fell, strange little insects jumped out of the array formation's radiance. These worms were only the size of a thumb, and they looked very evil. Their bodies were like worms, but their mouths occupied 1/3 of their bodies. Lu Jianghe said quickly, "These things are the heaven-devouring worms. I don't know where the Skycry demon venerables dug them out from, but they can devour everything, be it weapons, pills, human flesh, or even mental strength. Moreover, the evil nature of these things is still there. As long as they wake up, even if it's the essence of heaven and earth, they can devour and digest it all. It can be said that as long as there are enough of them, and as long as you don't kill them all in an instant, they can devour you until nothing is left." Back then, the sect leader said that these things came from some yellow spring sky, and they are formed from the evil energy of heaven and earth. In any case, they are very mysterious, and they harm the harmony of heaven and earth. It's best that they don't appear in the world. I thought that the Skycry demon venerables had already gotten rid of them. I didn't expect them to still be around. As he said this, Lu Jianghe's eyes flickered with fear. Clearly, he had suffered at the hands of these little things before. Just as he was about to discuss with Chu Xiu on how to deal with these things, he saw the Mahakala devil god Dharma idol appear behind Chu Xiu. In the third eye on his forehead, scorching world annihilation flames bloomed, engulfing and burning the swarms of heaven-devouring worms. The heaven-devouring worms didn't have any power, but they could devour all kinds of power. An ordinary person could kill a bunch of them with a stomp, but as long as one got close to you, it could devour it. As for Chu Xiu's world annihilation flames, it was a manifestation of the evolution of the power of life and death between heaven and earth. There was no way to extinguish the world annihilation flames, and it could only be resisted with an equal amount of power. Therefore, even if the heaven-devouring worms devoured the world annihilation flames, they were still very weak. Before they could be completely digested, they were devoured by the world annihilation flames. The heaven-devouring worms, which were described as extremely dangerous by Lu Jianghe, were dealt with by Chu Xiu in one move just like that. Lu Jianghe was instantly dumbfounded. "That's it?" Chu Xiu nodded and said, "What else do you want? All life and death in this world is in the cycle of reincarnation. There's nothing that can't be solved." As he said that, Chu Xiu and the others walked to the bottom of the throne. There were a few secret boxes inside, and from the looks of it, they were made of very extraordinary materials. This operation was already considered very smooth for Chu Xiu. At the very least, there weren't any problems. This was not easy for Chu Xiu. After all, he wasn't Lu Fengxian. He didn't have such good luck, and it wasn't easy for him to get the things he wanted. After opening the few secret boxes, Chu Xiu and the others checked the things inside. One of the secret boxes contained a lot of ancient books. After opening it, there were a lot of ancient books about alchemy, refining, divination, and other things. Of course, these things weren't of much use to Chu Xiu. These should have been left behind by the heaven-weeping demon venerable. 4 martial artists who were proficient in this field, it could be said to be a treasure. For example, Master Yuan Ji and Feng Buping. In terms of refining, Chu Xiu could even give it to Master Mo Yezi. The second secret box contained a lot of demonic techniques, which were also left behind by the heaven-weeping demon venerable. However, the demonic techniques left behind by the heaven-weeping demon venerable were too complicated. Moreover, they were inclined to those unorthodox methods, so their power wasn't very strong. Chu Xiu didn't intend to cultivate them, so he threw them to Wei Shuya and let him distribute them to the martial artists of the hidden devil lineage to cultivate. In this great war between the righteous and demonic factions, the martial artists of the hidden devil lineage had contributed a lot. Many of them fought to the death. Moreover, the phaseless demon sect was also firmly on his side. No matter what, he had to give them some benefits. Otherwise, who would work for him next time? When Chu Xiu opened the third secret box, there was only a jade slip inside. After checking the contents of the jade slip, Lu Jianghu said, "This is the cultivation method of the Heartless Demon Venerable, Heaven Heart Immortal Secret. It's the strongest demonic technique in the heaven and earth profound realm. Are you interested in cultivating it? Even if you are interested, it won't be of much use. You already have the invincible demon pill." Chu Xiu also took a look at the Heaven Heart Immortal Secret. Its main feature was that it could forcibly swallow the opponent's power during the battle. Regardless of whether it was digested or not, when one was seriously injured, one could use this power to repair oneself. There were even more extreme ones. If one didn't have any power, then the power of qi and blood, the heaven and earth yuan qi, could be forcibly swallowed to repair oneself. However, some of the side effects were that these kinds of power would accumulate in the body. It would take extra time to decompose, otherwise it might affect one's battle strength. What Chu Xiu condensed was Dugu Weiwei's invincible demon pill. It was an existence that controlled the life and death of the world. It was even stronger than the Heaven Heart Immortal Secret. Therefore, this thing was really useless to Chu Xiu. However, Chu Xiu still put it away. He planned to wait until he returned and give it to Lu Fengxian. Lu Fengxian was currently mainly cultivating the Nine Heavens Devil Golden Body. At this time, if she cultivated it together with the Heaven Heart Immortal Secret, her defensive power would definitely rise to another level. The fourth secret box was a little big. It was 3 feet tall. After opening it, there was actually a strange statue inside. That statue was an extremely strange existence. It looked like a Buddha but not a Buddha. There was a Buddha crown on its head, but its face was ferocious. It had 4 arms and its upper body was bare. However, it was covered in demonic patterns. Looking at its style, it was somewhat similar to the style of the Mahakala heavenly demon cult. However, there were also some differences. Chu Xiu examined it. This statue was actually a statue. Other than the strange demonic patterns on it, the entire body was actually carved out of stone. Although Chu Xiu didn't recognize those demonic patterns, he didn't know why he felt that they were very familiar. Chapter 1035. Although the stone statue was a stone statue, it was definitely not an ordinary stone statue. Otherwise, the Heartless Demon Venerable wouldn't have placed it here as his most important inheritance. Lu Jianghu looked at the stone statue and thought for a while before saying, "I seem to have seen this thing before. This thing seems to have been excavated from some ancient ruins by the Heartless Demon Venerable." He thought that the thing on it was a cultivation technique, so he showed it to the leader. However, the leader seemed to have said that the thing on it was a cultivation technique, but not a cultivation technique. To be more precise, it should be called a divine ability. Divine ability? Lu Jianghu nodded and said, "That's it." The leader seemed to have said that divine ability is not a cultivation technique, it can't be practiced. If you know it, then you know it. If you don't know it, then you don't know it. Anyway, he said a lot of words that made my head hurt. The Heartless Demon Venerable kept nodding as if he understood, but I dare say that he definitely didn't understand. If he understood, he wouldn't have continued to leave this thing here. Chu Xiu didn't understand what was going on with the stone statue, so after taking a look, he took it away and prepared to study it slowly. When Chu Xiu opened the last box, Lu Jianghu's eyes instantly turned red. He almost resisted his greed to the greatest extent, which was why he didn't pounce over. Of course, one of the reasons was because he was afraid of Chu Xiu. The moment the box was opened, a wave of extremely pure devil qi was released. It couldn't even be said to be demonic qi, it was simply like a flowing liquid. Such a state of demonic qi was simply unheard of. When the box was completely opened, the original appearance of the thing was revealed. It was actually a medicinal pill. To be precise, the medicinal pill was so exquisite that it didn't look like a medicinal pill. The entire medicinal pill was only the size of a thumb, but it was filled with exquisite golden patterns, as if it was naturally formed, but also as if it was meticulously carved. After a while, Chu Xiu slowly opened his mouth and asked, "What is this?" Lu Jianghu's face revealed an expression that looked like he was crying and laughing at the same time. "If I said that this is just an ordinary blood recovery pill, would you believe me?" Without waiting for Chu Xiu to reply, Lu Jianghu said with some resentment, "If it weren't for the fact that I can't beat you, I would have definitely robbed you." "What is this?" This was the legendary elixir, a supreme god pill that surpassed the 9 revolutions realm. Back when our holy sect was at its peak, that old fellow Heavencry demon lord suddenly had a strange idea. He wanted to refine a divine pill that surpassed all other pills in the world. For this, he plundered 80% of the good materials in the Jianghu at that time, causing the entire Jianghu to be furious. If it wasn't for the fact that our holy sect was at its peak, that old fellow would have been torn apart alive. At that time, no one knew what the sect master was thinking. He actually agreed to the Skycry demon sovereign's nonsense. I don't know what happened after that, and there's never been any news about the birth of a supreme god pill in Jianghu. I've always thought that the Skycry demon lord's sudden idea had already failed. But now, it seems that his sudden idea has come true. This time, even Chu Xiu had a look of astonishment on his face, not to mention everyone else. The 4 demon sovereigns of the Kunlun devil cult in the past were indeed not easy to deal with. They were all geniuses. The other party actually had a bold idea like the supreme god pill, and he even dared to put it into practice. Of course, this was also during that era, when the Kunlun devil cult was still at its peak. Whatever precious materials the Skycry demon lord wanted, he could get them. Now, it was probably impossible to refine it successfully. Then what's the use of this supreme god pill? Chu Xiu asked. I don't know. You don't know? Lu Jianghu said helplessly, I really don't know. Back then, when the Skycry demon lord refined this item, it was just an idea. There were all sorts of possibilities, but without a finished product, how would he know the effect? It's just like a blacksmith master. Before a weapon completely becomes a divine weapon, how many people can guarantee how sharp their weapon will be? This supreme god pill works the same way. If you don't eat it, who knows what effect it will have? However, according to the Skycry demon lord's calculations, this item should be able to extend one's lifespan, increase one's cultivation base, and strengthen one's mental strength. Anyway, it's a supreme god pill. Think positively, it's definitely not wrong. It might even be able to let someone step into the heaven and earth elemental realm. Hearing this, everyone's breathing became heavy. The heaven and earth elemental realm was a legendary supreme realm. If they had another heaven and earth elemental realm expert on their side in this war, they wouldn't have to fight so hard. Such an elixir could create a heaven and earth elemental realm expert. This was simply something they didn't dare to imagine. Moreover, no one wanted to fight with Chu Xiu for this elixir. Chu Wuji didn't have such intentions from the beginning. Back at Guangzhou City, when he was besieged by Mako Mori and the others, he vomited blood. In the end, Chu Xiu took action and beat 3 people until they vomited blood and fled. This difference was enough for Chu Wuji to recognize reality. It was the same for Mei Qinglian. She had just stepped into the true fire spiritual cultivation realm a few days ago, so she naturally wouldn't have any improper thoughts about the heaven and earth elemental realm. Moreover, she was Chu Xiu's person, so she naturally wouldn't fight with Chu Xiu. As for Wei Shuya, Old Man Wei had always regarded Chu Xiu as his successor. Not to mention fighting for the elixir, if anyone dared to fight with Chu Xiu for the elixir, he would even fight them to the death. Among the people present, only Lu Jianghu really had such thoughts. If it wasn't for the fact that this supreme god elixir was too eye-catching and he couldn't make up a lie to fool Chu Xiu, he would really dare to say that this was just a blood recovery elixir and that it was only placed here because the heavenly weeping demon lord had made a mistake before he died. Even as he said just now, If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't beat Chu Xiu, he was afraid that he would have snatched it. But now that he couldn't beat him, he could only admit defeat and not have any thoughts that he shouldn't have. Lu Jiang, he said sourly, "Kid, this is a supreme god elixir. You can be said to be the only person in the world who has tasted it. Even the sect leader doesn't have such treatment. When you swallow it later, don't be in a hurry to swallow it. Taste it first and tell me what it tastes like, so that I can feel better." Chu Xiu held the supreme god elixir in his hand and felt the energy within it. After a long while, Chu Xiu suddenly handed the supreme true elixir to Wei Shuya and said, "Old Wei, take this elixir and refine it." Everyone, including Wei Shuya, was dumbfounded when they heard this. All along, Chu Xiu wasn't considered a magnanimous person in their hearts. Of course, he wasn't stingy either. As long as you stood on his side sincerely, Chu Xiu would definitely give you many surprises. But this was a supreme true elixir, not something else. How could such a supreme treasure be taken out to give away a favor? Although Wei Shuya was touched, he still shook his head and said, "Chu Xiu, kid, I appreciate your kindness. But I'm already so old, no divine elixir or immortal elixir can save me. If you swallow it and refine it, it'll be 100 times more effective than me. There's no need to be modest about this. As long as you can reach the peak, it'll be a great fortune for the demonic path." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "Old Wei, I'm not being modest, nor am I being polite. I don't need to be polite with you guys. If I swallow and refine this supreme god elixir, it really won't be as effective as you." Lu Jiang, he stared at him and said, "Once you refine the supreme god elixir, you'll have a chance to step into the heaven and earth profound realm. How is it useless?" Chu Xiu said indifferently, "You said it yourself. No one knows what the effects of the supreme god elixir are. Even if it can help someone step into the heaven and earth profound realm, it's only a probability. It's not absolute. Of course, the most important thing is that I haven't reached the peak of the true fire spirit refinement realm yet. Give me some more time, and even if I don't step into the heaven and earth profound realm, I'll still have the same battle strength as someone in the heaven and earth profound realm. Do you guys believe me?" Mei Qinglian and the others nodded subconsciously. They believed him on this point. Although cultivation level and battle strength were closely related, they were actually two different things. For someone like Chu Xiu, his battle strength obviously couldn't be linked to his cultivation level. It was the same regardless of his cultivation level. After a pause, Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "And there's one more thing. I don't want to step into the heaven and earth profound realm through external means. The further one goes on the path of martial arts, the less shortcuts there are. Even the path ahead is filled with difficulties and dangers. There's no chance for you to take a detour. Only by relying on one's own strength to break through the road ahead is one's true path. What I'm pursuing is the perfection of strength and the extreme of strength, not a simple cultivation level." At this moment, Chu Xiu looked at Old Wei and said, "Old Wei, I trust your strength and comprehension. But forgive me for being blunt, the biggest obstacle that restricts you is your age. Because of your age, you're not fated to enter the heaven and earth profound realm in this lifetime." Wei Shuya nodded. Chu Xiu was right. At his age, he had long given up on the thought of taking another step forward. Chu Xiu pointed at the supreme god elixir and said, "I don't know the effects of this thing for now, but a supreme god elixir should be able to increase one's lifespan. On a smaller scale, this thing can increase one's strength and lifespan, allowing Old Wei to continue guarding the hidden devil clan. On a larger scale, Old Wei, if you use the power of the supreme god elixir to step into the heaven and earth profound realm, you can also provide greater protection for the hidden devil clan. I'm wholeheartedly pursuing the perfection of martial arts, so taking this supreme god elixir would be a waste. So I'm not being modest, nor am I being polite. Considering the current situation of the hidden devil clan and the general situation of the entire Jianghu, Old Wei, it's most suitable for you to refine this supreme true elixir." Everyone present was silent. Not to mention whether they agreed or not, just the fact that Chu Xiu was able to maintain a clear mind in the face of this level of treasure and calculate all the benefits and causes so clearly was already very terrifying. Chapter 1036. Chu Xiu didn't want to give Wei Shuya the supreme god elixir on impulse, but he made a decision after careful calculation. In fact, Chu Xiu didn't reject the use of external force to step into the heaven and earth mysterious realm. He was a person who would do anything to achieve his goal. As long as he could enhance his strength, he could do anything. What Chu Xiu really rejected was the side effects of using external force to step into the heaven and earth mysterious realm. Generally, above the real pellet state, there were very few people who could step into a realm with external force. Recently, Chu Xiu had only seen one person, that was Huo Xingzuan. Huo Xingzuan's real fire spirit refinement realm cultivation was definitely not achieved by himself. At least most of the reasons were attributed to external forces. Even if Huo Xingzuan's actual combat experience was frighteningly low, his strength was also frighteningly low. Chu Xiu had always been at the peak of the same rank. He didn't want to cause such side effects because of a momentary greed for power. Although the side effects of too fast progress could be made up for in the future, with that time, Chu Xiu could step into the heaven and earth mysterious realm by relying on his own strength. What was the use of elixir? Therefore, the supreme god elixir, which was a supreme treasure for others, was actually a little useless for Chu Xiu. Of course, Chu Xiu was probably the only one in the pugilistic world who felt that the supreme god pill was of little value. After all, no one else had the same confidence as Chu Xiu that he would definitely be able to step into the heaven and earth profound realm. Moreover, he was also very relieved that Chu Xiu gave the elixir to Old Wei. Over the years, Chu Xiu also saw everything that Old Wei had done. Old Wei wouldn't betray or give up on Chu Xiu. At present, Chu Xiu's side looked very strong at first glance. There was Shang Tianliang, the heaven and earth mysterious realm powerhouse, and more than a dozen real fire spirit refinement powerhouses. He even controlled the Immortal lineage, Martial Hall, Blue Dragon Society, and other forces. At first glance, he was even stronger than moon-worshipping cult. He even faintly had the demeanor of the top demonic sect. But in fact, this strength was still not enough because Chu Xiu's opponent was the entire righteous faction. Moon-worshipping cult could only rely on Yi Xiaonan to support it. If he took out Shang Tianliang, even 10 of him wouldn't be Yi Xiaonan's opponent. In terms of other forces, Chu Xiu was not as good as the entire righteous faction. He wasn't even as good as Eastern Qi. At this time, if there was one more heaven and earth mysterious realm existence on Chu Xiu's side, it would also be a great help to his side. Seeing that Chu Xiu actually gave him such a supreme god elixir, Wei Shuya's hands also trembled slightly. At this time, Wei Shuya could only rejoice that he didn't choose the wrong person back then. People said that Chu Xiu was ruthless and cruel, but they didn't know that if you gave him a point today, he might return it 10 times in the future. Although Chu Xiu could become good friends with Lu Fengxian, in the eyes of most people, they were very similar in a certain aspect. It was just that Chu Xiu was like this to his own people, but against enemies, if someone stabbed him, he would dare to kill your entire family. Wei Shuya let out a long sigh and kept the supreme god elixir. He said in a deep voice, "Then I won't stand on ceremony. You youngsters have to think further than me. If I can take this opportunity to make a breakthrough, I will be able to do more for the Yinma clan in the future." Lu Jianghe's eyes were red as he watched. He had given away the supreme god elixir just like that. In his heart, Chu Xiu had always been narrow-minded and extremely stingy, but today he was too generous. However, although Lu Jianghe was jealous, he had to admit that Wei Shuya, this old man, had indeed not been easy. It was an indisputable fact that most people in the Devil Dao were selfish and indifferent. In other words, most people in the Devil Dao were more self-centered. Apart from the Kunlun Devil cult in the past, which was able to unify the entire Devil Dao, the other Devil Dao alliance was almost a pile of trouble, just like the current Hidden Devil clan. In the end, Wei Shuya relied on his own strength and selflessly held on for so long. Even Lu Jianghe couldn't help but admire him, especially when it came to Chu Xiu's attitude. One had to know that Chu Xiu was not someone who was easy to deal with at the beginning. He had caused a lot of trouble. If it was someone else, they might not have been able to bear it and would have thrown Chu Xiu out to keep the peace. However, Wei Xia never had such a thought. He had always supported Chu Xiu behind his back. This kind of thing was not something an ordinary person could do. Today's cause, tomorrow's effect. Chu Xiu's previous superiors had all gone to the underworld to report, and only Wei Xia had received a reward. This was not without reason. Hey, there's another thing in the secret box. Could it be that there's another divine elixir? Lu Jiang he suddenly discovered something at this time, and his heart was filled with excitement. If there was another divine elixir, wouldn't it be his turn? However, it was a pity that it was not a divine elixir, but something that Chu Xiu was very familiar with. It turned out to be a Supreme Heaven Key, and it was not an ordinary Supreme Heaven Key. It was exactly the same as the Supreme Heaven Key found in the primitive Devil Cave, and it even had demonic marks on it. Old Lu, do you know what this is? Lu Jiang he shook his head doubtfully and said, I don't know. This thing appeared in the primitive Devil Cave. Now it seems that this is not the first time this thing has been born. Don't forget, the sect leader entered the primitive Devil Cave once and took out Ting Chun Yu's knife embryo. This thing was also born in the primitive Devil Cave. Do you think it was also taken out by the sect leader, but he didn't know what it was, so he casually threw it to the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable to study? After all, the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable is good at studying these strange things. Chu Xiu nodded. This was really a possibility. Generally, if he encountered something he didn't understand, he would throw it to his subordinates, Grandmaster Yuan Ji or Feng Buping, to study it. Although he didn't know what this thing was for the time being, since this stone was born in the primitive Devil Cave and was taken away by Zhong Xinxiu, it was obviously not an ordinary thing. It was always right to keep it first. Since the Heartless Demon Venerable and the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable's things were already in Chu Xiu's hands, they were ready to leave. This time, Chu Xiu and the others went so smoothly, and most of the credit really went to the previous group of people. They spent a lot of effort and used their own lives to pave the way for Chu Xiu and the others. Lu Jiang he looked at the corpses of the Heartless Demon Venerable and the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable and sighed. Take the corpses of the two of them out and find a place to bury them. After all, they were the two great demon venerables of our holy religion in the past. Don't be too shabby. Previously in the Kunlun Devil cult, the relationship between the two sides was good or bad. 500 years had passed, and things were still the same, but people had changed. No matter what, they were old friends. Lu Jiang he also felt a little uncomfortable at this time. However, at this time, when Chu Xiu heard Lu Jiang he mention the corpses, he suddenly thought of something and froze. Seeing Chu Xiu's appearance, Lu Jiang he just had a question, but Chu Xiu suddenly said, Old Lu, these two demon venerables were forced to die here. They must be very unwilling, right? If I use their corpses to do something great for our holy religion, don't you think their souls in heaven will feel very gratified? Hearing Chu Xiu's words, everyone present turned to look at Chu Xiu. What do you want to do? From Chu Xiu's tone, he could tell that he was definitely planning something. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, I want to go back to West Kunlun, break the seal, and reignite the rootless sacred flame. Hearing Chu Xiu's words, everyone present was stunned. After a long while, Wei Xia was the first to say excitedly, Chu Xiu, are you crazy? Everyone in the hidden devil lineage had thought that there would be such a day. But do you know what this day represents? What you will face is the entire righteous Dao sect, and not just the righteous Dao sect. Even the Sword King city, which has always maintained a neutral position, will stand against you. Even the moon-worshipping cult may do the same. Don't be fooled by our previous happy cooperation. Who can guarantee the moon-worshipping cult's attitude on such an extremely sensitive matter? I can tell you that in this Jianghu, in this world, no one wants to see the Kunlun devil cult reappear. In fact, among the entire hidden devil clan, Wei Xia most wanted the Devil Dao sect to return to the glory of the Kunlun devil cult. However, reason told him that it was almost impossible. In the past, no matter how crazy Chu Xiu was, Wei Xia would choose to support him. But this time, he couldn't because Chu Xiu's idea was too crazy. Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, Old Wei, I'm not crazy. It's just that I have to take this step sooner or later. I won 2 wars in a row. Of course, it can also be understood that I didn't lose either time. At this time, in the eyes of those righteous Dao sects, I'm afraid I'm a higher threat than Yi Shaonan because I'm younger and more shameless. The corner of Lu Jianghu's mouth twitched. Chu Xiu had always been a person who knew his limits. His evaluation of himself was quite correct. Lu Jianghu didn't know whether this was a strength or a weakness. Chu Xiu continued, so I can guarantee that when the next war comes, it won't be so easy for us to get through it. Over the years, our strength has been getting stronger and stronger, but the crisis we encounter each time is also getting bigger and bigger. I didn't want to go to the Kunlun mountain, but they forced me to come. Instead of passively waiting for death, it's better to make the first move. Old Wei, although I like to gamble, when have you seen me gamble blindly? If I didn't have a certain degree of certainty, how could I make such a decision? After a long silence, Wei Xia thought about it and said, you don't make a move now because there will be danger in the future. If you go to West Kunlun now, you will anger the whole Jianghu. What do you have to bear it? Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes, looked at the corpses of Heartless Demon Venerable and Heaven Weeping Demon Venerable, and said, I'm not going to fight it head-on at all. Although these 2 Demon Venerables are dead, if their corpses are used well, they can help me divert a large part of the attention. For example, is it more important for me to go to West Kunlun or the appearance of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation? Chapter 1037. Chu Xiu's words stunned Wei Xia and the others. Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation? They didn't even know if their religion master was alive or dead, so how could there be any reincarnation? Wei Xia suddenly reacted, looking at the corpses of Heavenly Weeping Demon Master and Heartless Demon Master. You want to use the corpses of these 2 demon masters to set up a trap? Chu Xiu nodded. Exactly, but the details need to be perfected after we return. Everything here, including the black snake, must be moved away. Even the damaged spirit arrays must not be left behind. Hearing that Chu Xiu had a general plan, Wei Xia didn't try to persuade him anymore. It wouldn't be too late to wait until they returned. Therefore, everyone directly contributed their space boxes and other secret treasures, emptying the entire cave. At this time, on the stern of the ship, Old Song was happily holding a small wine pot and sipping it. If he could complete the task given to him by these people, after returning, his status would be even higher than when he was in the Blue Dragon fleet. Moreover, in his opinion, his task was already 80% complete. Now that he had found the place, going back shouldn't be a problem. At this moment, on the distant sea, a cultivator in white robes stepped on the water, or rather, it should be said that the waves took the initiative to wrap around his figure as he moved forward. Although Old Song's strength wasn't very high, he was also a person who had seen the world. In an instant, he judged that this person was definitely a powerhouse among powerhouses. This made his heart tighten. What was the relationship between this powerhouse and the people who had entered before? If they were to fight, wouldn't it be a disaster for the fish in the moat? Right at this moment, the expert actually dashed towards him, causing Old Song to shiver uncontrollably. However, the powerhouse just walked up to him and politely asked, "Excuse me, do you know?" At this point, the powerhouse suddenly turned his head, looked at the island and said, "Oh, no need, I already know." As the powerhouse's voice fell, his figure disappeared in an instant, and the next moment, as if he had passed through space, he appeared on the island. Old Song was so scared that he sat down on the deck. Although the expert just now did not reveal any terrifying aura, Old Song could not help but feel a sense of reverence in his heart when faced with such a powerful existence. It was as if he was in awe of the entire world. At this moment, Chu Xiu and the others had just stored everything in the cave into the secret space box. Just as they were about to leave, they saw a figure in white standing in front of the cave, looking at them calmly. In an instant, Chu Xiu and the others were stunned. They never imagined that they would meet Zhong Shenxiu here. The person who appeared in front of Chu Xiu was the carefree Sky Lord Zhong Shenxiu, the #1 powerhouse in the world. But when Chu Xiu thought about it carefully, he felt that it was normal. The legendary Freedom Heaven was located in the East Sea, And this was also the territory of the East Sea. It seemed most normal for Zhong Shenxiu to appear here. But what was strange was why would he appear in front of them? What did he want to do? Chu Xiu had once said that one shouldn't use their own thoughts to speculate about powerhouses that weren't on the same level as themselves, because that would be ridiculous. Now Chu Xiu was in this awkward situation. He simply could not guess why Zhong Shenxiu would appear in front of them. The two sides looked at each other awkwardly for a few breaths of time. Then, Zhong Shenxiu took out something that Chu Xiu was very familiar with. It was the Heaven Ascension key that he had obtained in the primitive demon cave. I want this. Chu Xiu didn't even hesitate. He took out the Heaven Connecting key with the magic runes and handed it to Zhong Shenxiu. He didn't know what Zhong Shenxiu wanted this thing for. He also didn't know how Zhong Shenxiu knew that they had obtained this thing and even rushed over so quickly. He only knew that the gap in cultivation between him and Zhong Shenxiu had reached an unimaginable degree. In the face of this absolute power and influence, any trick or scheme was a joke, and any scheme was also a joke. A wise man submits to circumstances. Sometimes, cowardice was the only solution. The more one struggled, the worse the result would be. Zhong Shenxiu held the stone and nodded with satisfaction. Looking at Chu Xiu, he raised his hand, frowned, and put it down again. After thinking for a moment, he raised it again, but then put it down again. This scene left Chu Xiu and the others puzzled. What was the strongest powerhouse in the world trying to do? To the side, Lu Jiang was so scared that his entire body trembled. This person, could it be that he was thinking of slapping Chu Xiu to death with 1 or 2 slaps? After a moment, Zhong Shenxiu put down his hand and said in a soft voice, I owe you karma. Is there anything you want me to help you with? Chu Xiu was slightly startled. Wei Shuya and the others were also startled. They now knew that this strongest powerhouse in the world seemed to have some problems with his mind. If the karma he spoke of was referring to the supreme sky key with the demonic runes, then most people in Jianghu wouldn't care about it. To put it cruelly, treasures belonged to the strong. If you didn't have the strength, you couldn't protect your own things. An ordinary man was innocent, but treasuring a treasure was a crime. Even if you were robbed, you couldn't do anything about it. The only difference was that the tyrannical ones robbed you, but if you dared to resist, they would kill you. The more hypocritical ones would rob you with threats and rewards, and then give you some trivial things, and you would still be grateful for their kindness. But Zhong Shenxiu was neither of these. If he said that he owed Chu Xiu karma, then it was karma. It wasn't hypocritical charity, but rather a fair transaction. Chu Xiu didn't know that Zhong Shenxiu had a habit of asking for directions. If he knew, he would understand what Zhong Shenxiu was thinking. This was a balance, a cycle of karma. You pointed the way for me and I gave you a good fortune. The price of pointing the way was insignificant to you. Giving you a so-called great fortune in the eyes of others was also insignificant to Zhong Shenxiu. Of course, this sort of thing wasn't absolute. Last time in the primitive demon cave, Fang Qi Shao had been unlucky. He pointed the way for Zhong Shenxiu, and Zhong Shenxiu also wanted to give him a good fortune. But unfortunately, Fang Qi Shao's talent was already good enough. He didn't need Zhong Shenxiu to give him another good fortune. And if she gave him too much, it would break the balance on his side. Thus, in the end, Fang Qi Shao didn't have the chance to touch his head. And this time, Chu Xiu was much luckier than Fang Qi Shao. He had obtained that thing first, so Zhong Shenxiu only asked for it. If it was like the last time in the primitive demon cave, if this thing was an ownerless object, then Zhong Shenxiu would have directly snatched it away. He didn't owe anyone karma. Moreover, the karma value of the supreme sky key with demonic runes couldn't be compared to pointing the way. Zhong Shenxiu wanted to give Chu Xiu a great fortune, but he discovered that with Chu Xiu's current potential and strength, he had nothing left to give to Chu Xiu. The supreme sky key with demonic runes was related to a great deal of karma. If he couldn't give Chu Xiu a good fortune of equal value, then he could only let Chu Xiu state his own conditions. If anyone else said this, Chu Xiu would definitely have some doubts. But since Zhong Shenxiu said this, Chu Xiu believed him. With Zhong Shenxiu's strength, if he wanted to snatch it, then he would snatch it. Since he said that he could state a condition, then he would definitely give him an explanation. So Chu Xiu cautiously asked, "Can I state any condition?" Zhong Shenxiu said calmly, "As long as I can do it, I can." Chu Xiu frowned slightly. The crux of the problem was, what could she do and what couldn't she do? "Help me kill someone, can you?" Zhong Shenxiu nodded and said, "Sure, kill who?" Heaven Gate Sect Master, Jianghu. In the primitive demon cave, Chu Xiu had killed a Heaven Gate divine general. Although Jianghu had been forced away by Zhong Shenxiu in the end, the enmity had already been formed. If he could resolve it now, that would be for the best. Otherwise, what awaited Chu Xiu in the future would be a very terrifying enemy. But when Chu Xiu said this, even Lu Jianghe and the others were shocked. To ask the current number 1 in the world to kill the number 2 in the world, Chu Xiu really dared to say this. Zhong Shenxiu shook her head and said, "You can't kill him. Jianghu is the gatekeeper. If you kill him, there will be no one to guard the gate. It will be very troublesome and will affect karma." Chu Xiu was slightly taken aback. He asked doubtfully, "What do you mean by gatekeeper?" "He's the one guarding the door." Chu Xiu was slightly speechless. But it was clear that if Zhong Shenxiu didn't want to say it, no one else could ask. And Chu Xiu wasn't so bored as to use such a precious opportunity to find out more about the Heaven Gate. "Then let's change it. Abbot of the Great Light Temple, Su Si." Zhong Shenxiu shook her head and said, "Su Si has Buddhist karma. Killing him will affect karma." "So you're saying that Rama of the Subhuti Monastery can't do it? What about Ling Yunzi of the Chunyang Dao sect?" Zhong Shenxiu continued to shake her head. "Ling Yunzi has Taoist karma. He can't do it either." Chu Xiu was silent. It seemed that all the important figures in the pugilistic world were burdened with karma. He couldn't kill any of them. But other than these few people who had great enmity with him, Chu Xiu could kill the others himself. He didn't need Zhong Shenxiu to help him kill them. At this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly thought of something and said, "Then can you keep this opportunity and bring it up when I need it?" Zhong Shenxiu paused and said, "Sure." After saying this, Zhong Shenxiu waved her hand and a mark seeped into Chu Xiu's mind. "Activate the mark in your psyche and I will be able to sense it." After saying this, Zhong Shenxiu took a step forward. Her figure was already above the surface of the sea. As the waves surged, she disappeared, leaving Chu Xiu and the others looking at each other. They really couldn't understand the meaning of Zhong Shenxiu's actions. Chu Xiu could guess what the other powerhouses were thinking, but Zhong Shenxiu couldn't even guess it. Chapter 1038. Although Zhong Shenxiu's sudden appearance did not disrupt Chu Xiu's plans, it still gave him a great shock. It was only now that Chu Xiu discovered that the strongest people standing at the peak of the world seemed to be wrapped in layers of mysteries. Previously, Chu Xiu had suspected that the name of Heaven's Gate was just a literal meaning. It was really a gate. And now Zhong Shenxiu's words indirectly confirmed this point. Heaven's Gate's Jianghu was a gatekeeper. Compared to Jianghu, Zhong Shenxiu himself was even more mysterious. In all these years, he had only appeared in front of the people of Jianghu a few times. It could even be said that he was a person with no future. Even the information on Zhong Shenxiu from Wind Sweeping Building could not fill up a piece of paper. It was said that the East Sea was the sky of freedom. There were many martial artists in the East Sea, but whether it was the wind-splitting sea or the clear wind sea, no one knew where the sky of freedom was. Old Lu, when the sect leader was here, did he have any dealings with the people of the sky of freedom? Lu Jianghe scratched his head and said, "I don't know, but whenever the sect leader made a move, he was either dead or crippled. Now that the sky of freedom has a descendant like Zhong Shenxiu, there shouldn't be any conflicts." As for the matter of the sky of freedom, Chu Xiu did not dwell too much on it. After all, the East Sea was not their territory. It was better to return to the northern Yen to discuss these messy matters. After returning to Supreme Island, Chu Xiu returned Old Song to Pak Donglai. However, he made Mei Qinglian use the beauty technique to erase the memory of Zhong Shenxiu's appearance. This matter was a little sensitive to Chu Xiu. Old Song was an outsider, so it was best for him to be ignorant. After successfully sending off Chu Xiu and the others, Pak Donglai let out a sigh of relief. Killing gods of this level would be a great help when needed, but it was best to stay away from them during normal times. After returning to the Jianghu Hall, Chu Xiu began to lay out his plan. However, because the matter was critical, only Wei Shuya and other core members of Chu Xiu's side participated. In fact, Chu Xiu's plan was very simple. It could be summed up in 4 words: luring the tiger away from the mountain. The news of Dugu Weiwei's life and death had always been a mystery in the pugilistic world. If Chu Xiu used the corpses of Heartless Demon Venerable and Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable to set up a trap and make people think that Dugu Weiwei was not dead but reincarnated, what would the pugilistic world look like? It was estimated that all the righteous martial arts world and all the forces except the Yinma lineage would track down the news of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation. At this time, if Chu Xiu returned to Kunlun Mountain, he would undoubtedly receive a lot less attention. After listening to Chu Xiu's general plan, Wei Shuya thought for a moment and said in a deep voice, "This plan has a certain degree of feasibility, but there is only one key point. That is, how can we make 90% of the pugilistic world believe this? As long as there is a trace of loophole, the plan will definitely fail." Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, "Then do it without the slightest loophole." Right now, Chu Xiu's subordinates could be said to be filled with talented people. They could be found in all aspects. It wasn't too difficult to set up such a trap. However, Chu Xiu did not intend to put this trap in northern Yen, but in eastern Qi. This place could not be discovered by him first, but by the people of the righteous sects first. Therefore, Chu Xiu only brought a few people to sneak into the territory of eastern Qi, found a particularly remote barren mountain, and began to dig a cave. The appearance of the cave was almost based on the appearance of the cave in Donghai. Some of the formations along the way had been damaged. Chu Xiu brought Master Yuanji over and threw him the ancient book left by the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable. He asked him to follow the ancient book and carefully set up the formation along the way. The interior of the cave was arranged in the same way as the one in Donghai. Even the black snake was placed in the cave by Chu Xiu. This beast would be of great use in the future. After the corpses of the Heartless Demon Venerable and the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable were placed in place, Chu Xiu said to Master Yuanji, "Master Yuanji, you are good at divination. Can you create something and fill it with things like Tao connotation and karma? In short, the more obscure it looks, the better." Master Yuanji murmured, "Obscure? That's a good description. Sir, I can create something like this, but the problem is that I can't do it. With my abilities, if Su Jing from the Temple of Great Light or that Xiao Mo from the Sabodhi Monastery were to come, it would be very easy for them to see through me." "Then there's no other way?" Master Yuanji thought about it and said, "There is. Sir, you can do it." Master Yuanji nodded and said, "Sir, your current abilities are almost at the peak of the true fire spiritual cultivation realm. Even if a powerhouse of the heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm comes, you'll be able to fight them. You're almost invincible among your peers. Among the heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm existences in the pugilistic world, as far as I know, no one is good at divination. As long as you do it, I guarantee that even if Su Jing and Xiao Mo come, they won't be able to see through it." Chu Xiu nodded and said, "Then what should I do?" "Sir, what do you want to make?" Chu Xiu thought about it and said, "Make a stone slab, a very ordinary stone slab. Write these words on it: Heaven's Mandate Undefeatable, Demon Lord Undying." Master Yuanji's hand suddenly trembled. For some reason, when he heard these words, he felt his heart palpitate. It was as if he had touched some kind of existence in the unseen world. He did not dare to think too much about it. He immediately found a green stone slab and started making it, sketching all sorts of formation patterns on it. After a while, all the formation patterns were integrated into the green stone slab. Master Yuanji said, "Sir, you seem to be good at divination techniques from the Taoist lineage. You just need to circulate that secret technique at full power and channel its powers into this stone slab." Chu Xiu nodded and circulated the heaven's sun gazing at air skill at full power, channeling all his powers into it. As the green stone slab shone brightly, it eventually returned to calmness. Chu Xiu stuffed the green stone slab into the hands of the heaven-weeping demon venerable, creating the illusion that the heaven-weeping demon venerable had deduced these 8 words. Similarly, under the 2 thrones, Chu Xiu also dug a cave. He gritted his teeth and left many good things in it. There was even the heartless demon venerable's inheritance, which was the original version, as well as various resources and treasures used by the demonic path. Without sacrificing the child, one would not be able to trap the wolf. This setup did not allow for any loopholes. After the setup was completed, Chu Xiu took out a piece of silk cloth and got Master Yuan Ji to use his techniques to make it old. He wrote a line of words and threw it to the bottom. Then, he brought everyone out of the cave completely and used the formation that the heaven-weeping demon venerable had left behind to seal it. After leaving, Master Yuan Ji still could not react. When he thought about the setup in the cave, his body trembled. 80% of the things in the cave were set up by him. If these things were to appear in the world, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. After returning to the Suppression Martial Hall, Old Wei temporarily went into seclusion to refine the Supreme God Elixir. As for Chu Xiu, he was already prepared to completely trigger his setup. He had already set up everything. Now, he just had to wait for someone to discover it. However, the identity of the person who made the discovery was very important. Firstly, it could not be the people on Chu Xiu's side. Secondly, it had to be the people from the orthodox sections. Moreover, their strength could not be too strong. Otherwise, the ruins would be completely destroyed before Chu Xiu arrived. Then, his setup would be in vain. After thinking about it, Chu Xiu called Yi Shao over and asked, "Recently, has there been any changes on the Longhu list? Has anyone from the demonic path been in the top 10 of the Longhu list?" With Chu Xiu's current strength, he was already a big shot from the demonic path who could stir up the underworld. He could even obtain the position of a supreme martial artist with just a stretch of his hand. The reputation list indeed could not attract his attention. However, a junior martial artist like Yi Shao was still paying attention to the reputation list. Yi Shao said, "There is one. Little Devil Star, Du Zhongfang is currently ranked 5th on the Longhu list. Which sect is he from? Is it the Hidden Devil lineage or the Bright Devil lineage?" Yi Shao shook his head and said, "Neither. This person is a rogue cultivator from the demonic path. He is arrogant and unruly. He has offended many people in the underworld. He even destroyed the penis of a direct disciple of the Xiahou clan and humiliated the Xiahou clan in public. Even the Chunyang Dao sect and the Real Martial Arts sect have suffered losses from him. Recently, he has been rather eye-catching among the younger generation in the underworld. Previously, there were people from the Hidden Devil lineage and the Bright Devil lineage who wanted to recruit him into their sections. However, they were all rejected by him. He claimed that he was used to being free and could not be restrained. This person is too high-profile and radical. He always makes unnecessary enemies. His personality is even more flamboyant. If such a person doesn't quickly find a backer, I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on for long." Hearing Yi Zhao's words, Chu Xiu nodded. "This person is not bad. I'll choose him." However, there was no need for Chu Xiu to personally make arrangements for these matters. He was prepared to let the Blue Dragon Society do it. The Blue Dragon Society just happened to be in Eastern Qi. It was the perfect time to make a move. 3 months later, in a dark alley in Eastern Qi's Nanliang City, Du Zhongfang was surrounded by several martial artists. Du Zhongfang was dressed in black. On his back was a long saber, a long sword, and a short sword. There were also 2 long spears crossed on his back. At first glance, he looked like a weapon seller. However, his appearance was not bad. He had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes. His appearance was masculine and handsome. However, his eyes revealed a sense of untamed arrogance. It seemed as if he would not submit to anyone he looked at. Du Zhongfang was ranked 5th on the Longhu leaderboard. He had the strength of the unity of heaven and man realm. However, the 7 or 8 people in front of him were all at the unity of heaven and man realm. Moreover, none of them were weak. They all held precious weapons in their hands. The long sword and short sword on his back had already cracked in the previous battle. Looking at the people in front of him and behind him, Du Zhongfang could not help but curse inwardly. He had been too careless. Previously, he did not sense anyone following him. He did not expect that these bastards from the Xiahou clan had already been lying in wait for him in Nanliang City. Chapter 1039. Du Zhongfang had previously destroyed the lifeblood of a direct descendant of the Xiahou clan in public, which was a great insult to the Xiahou clan. Xiahou, who had been slapped in the face, naturally would not let Du Zhongfang off so easily. The other party was just a casual demonic cultivator without any backing. The Xiahou clan had no scruples in dealing with him. Seeing the people of the Xiahou clan approaching him, Du Zhongfang clenched the two spears behind him and sneered, "Your Xiahou clan is really shameless. So many people besieged me. Last time that trash lost to me one-on-one, and you came to besiege me. Shameless. You want to be on the Dragon Tiger list with this kind of virtue? I think it's hard for your Xiahou clan's disciples to get on the Snake Cat list." The people of the Xiahou clan didn't waste time talking nonsense with him. They directly rushed up and began to kill Du Zhongfang, looking like they wanted to tear Du Zhongfang into pieces. Being able to step into the 5th place of the Dragon Tiger list, Du Zhongfang naturally had some strength. It could be said that few people of the same rank could match him. However, this generation's Dragon Tiger list was not the era of Chu Xiu's Dragon Tiger list. Almost everyone in the top 5 had the strength to fight against the real pellet state at the unity of man and nature realm. Being besieged by so many people, Du Zhongfang soon couldn't hold on. Even the spear in his hand was broken. Just when Du Zhongfang gritted his teeth and was about to burn his blood essence to fight for his life, a cold sword light appeared in the alley. In an instant, the martial artists of the Xiahou clan who besieged Du Zhongfang were stunned, then their heads fell to the ground. A sword light killed so many powerhouses in seconds. Du Zhongfang looked ahead in horror. On both sides of the alley, there was a person standing, both dressed in black, wearing a black iron hat and a black iron mask. The only difference was that one was smiling while the other was crying. Blue Dragon Society. Du Zhongfang instantly recognized the identity of the other party. After all, only the Blue Dragon Society always dressed like this in the entire underworld. "Kid, come with us," Song Xiao said. 2 martial Dao masters of the Blue Dragon Society came to find him. Although Du Zhongfang didn't know why, it was definitely not a good thing. He was just about to say something when Song Xiao interjected, "Kid, you don't have a choice right now. If I hadn't saved you just now, you would have died at the hands of those Xiahou bastards. Your life is ours now. If you're obedient, I'll return your life to you. If you're disobedient, I'll take your life away. You'll still be able to live a little longer, so it's worth it. So now, are you going to be obedient or not?" Song Zhao's tone carried a hint of a smile, but her words were chilling. Although Du Zhongfang was arrogant, he was not an idiot. In the face of such absolute power, he had no right to choose. "I choose to be obedient," Du Zhongfang answered obediently. Song Xiao nodded. "Good. Don't worry, your life isn't worth much, and I can't be bothered to ask for it. You only need to do one thing for us." As she spoke, Song Xiao took out a map and pointed at a place on it. "See this place? Remember it clearly, don't ever forget it. Don't you like to cause trouble? What I'll ask you to do is your specialty, causing trouble. Whether it's the Dao sects, the 9 great families, or other martial arts sects, you can provoke whoever you want. But remember, after you've provoked them, don't run around randomly like before. You just need to bring them to this place, understand?" Du Zhongfang hurriedly nodded his head, but his eyes were filled with doubt. This matter wasn't too difficult, but too simple. There was simply no difficulty. But because it was too simple, he had doubts in his heart. Just when Du Zhongfang wanted to ask something, Song Xiao directly waved his hand and said, "Kid, you know what you should know, and even if you know what you shouldn't know, you have to pretend to be ignorant. Remember, don't ask, don't say, just do it, and you'll be able to save your life." Du Zhongfang originally wanted to ask, but he immediately swallowed his words and nodded hurriedly. In fact, even if Du Zhongfang asked about this matter, Song Shao also didn't know how to answer, because he also didn't know why. On this matter, Chu Xiu had been extremely secretive, and only a few people knew about it. Han Kuai and Song Shao only knew what they wanted to do, but they didn't know why. But this wasn't important. After being an assassin in the Blue Dragon Society for so many years, even the talkative Song Shao had learned to control his mouth and his own curiosity. Looking at Du Zhongfang's departing back, Song Shao couldn't help but shake his head and said, "This generation's Longhu leaderboard really isn't that good. It can't even be compared to official Chu's generation. This Du Zhongfang is ranked 5th on the Longhu leaderboard, but he can only be said to be talented, but his character is too flawed." Back when official Chu was on the Longhu leaderboard, he was already able to stir up the martial world. Han Kuai calmly said, "So in this world, there is only one official Chu." After that, the two immediately left. Their mission was that simple. For this kind of thing, the less people knew, the better. When Du Zhongfang left, he did have the thought of running away and ignoring Han Kuai and Song Zhao's mission. But no matter how he thought about it, he didn't dare to do so. Part of the reason why Du Zhongfang dared to offend those righteous martial artists was because he was originally from the Diabolism, so it was normal for him to have conflicts with those righteous martial artists. Also, other than the time he offended the Xiahou clan, the other righteous martial artists didn't take him seriously. Those big sects also couldn't be bothered to haggle with a junior from the Diabolism like him. But now, this was a mission given to him by the two grandmasters from the Blue Dragon Society. If he dared to run away, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Blue Dragon Society was everywhere in the martial world, and now, the Blue Dragon Society had a backer behind them. It was a powerful figure from the Diabolism. Du Guangzhong couldn't afford to offend such an existence. So in the end, he could only grit his teeth and complete the mission given to him by Han Kuai and Song Shao. When it came to creating trouble and attracting hatred, Du Guangzhong was not bad at it. In less than a month, he had offended a few people from the righteous sects in Eastern Qi. In the end, it even caused a few disciples from the righteous sects to join forces under the leadership of the Chunyang Dao sect's direct disciple, Zhang Fuliu, to hunt down Du Guangzhong. Zhang Fuliu was a Taoist priest, but he had nothing to do with the Zhang family of Longhu Mountain. Instead, he was one of the disciples that the Chunyang Dao sect accepted when they took over northern Yen. He came from a martial arts family. Although it was a small family, they did not mistreat Zhang Fuliu. His foundation was solid, and after joining the Chunyang Dao sect, he quickly made a name for himself. This was the first time he left the mountain, but he encountered Du Zhongfang and suffered some losses. Therefore, he relied on his reputation as the direct disciple of the Chunyang Dao sect to gather many people to find trouble with Du Zhongfang. However, Du Zhongfang was very slippery. They chased him for many days, all the way to the wilderness, but they still could not find him. Behind Zhang Fuliu, a young disciple of the true martial sect said, "Taoist brother Zhang, that guy runs very fast. After so many days, we have not been able to catch up with him. Why don't we just give up?" Zhang Fuliu snorted coldly and said, "No matter how fast he is only one person. If we join forces, we can exhaust him to death. It is a disgrace to let such a demonic scoundrel share the Longhu list with us. If we do not kill him, how can we live up to the teachings of our sect?" Of course, Zhang Fuliu also had a hidden meaning. If he did not kill Du Zhongfang, how could he be ranked in the top 10 of the Longhu list? At this moment, Zhang Fuliu suddenly felt something. He raised his head and said, "There is a faint devil qi in this wild forest. Could this be Du Zhongfang's lair?" The disciples that the Chunyang Dao sect recruited in the northern Yen were all very sensitive to the pure yang energy. Zhang Fuliu was naturally the same. He was sensitive to the pure yang energy, but even more so to the devil qi. The group followed the source of the devil qi and chased all the way to the front of a cave. Everyone looked at each other. Zhang Fuliu tried to slash out a pure yang sword qi. However, just as it reached the entrance of the cave, in an instant, the radiance of the formation Dao circulated and the devil qi soared for more than 10 miles. The strong pressure instantly scared Zhang Fuliu and the others to sit on the ground, their faces pale. What kind of place did they find? At this moment, Du Zhongfang was outside the wild forest. At this moment he was still hesitating. Since he had lured everyone here, would he be able to leave? The next moment he saw the scene of the devil Qi piercing the 9 heavens. This made his expression change instantly. Du Zhongfang's expression changed a few times. Finally, he turned around and left. He was very curious, but when he saw this power, his curiosity was scared away. This was no longer something he could participate in. This power was enough to attract the attention of half of Eastern Qi. With the strength of Zhang Fuliu and others, they naturally couldn't open this cave, so they directly returned to the sect to report. However, during this period of time, there had been a lot of news. It was said that there was a powerful Devil Dao inheritance in Eastern Qi. Some people said that it was the inheritance of the ancient Devil Dao, and some people said that it was the inheritance of the Kunlun Devil cult. Anyway, there were different opinions and it attracted countless martial artists. Some people went to explore first, but they were directly strangled by the formation. At least, those below the real pellet state were not even qualified to touch the formation. 7 days later, the powerhouses of Chunyang Dao sect, real martial arts cult, Xiahou clan, Shangshuang clan, and even the Eastern Qi imperial court arrived to explore the movement inside. In front of the cave, the casual martial artists and the martial artists of those small sects who came to join in the fun had retreated to the side. Ling Yunzi and others stood in front of the cave to study the formation. Originally, Ling Yunzi didn't plan to come this time, but when he heard Zhang Fuliu describe the formation outside the cave, Meiko Mori suddenly said that it was very similar to the existence left by the Kunlun Devil cult in the past. It was related to the Kunlun Devil cult, which was very sensitive, so Ling Yunzi came to investigate in person. Chapter 1040. Ling Yunzi was not good at formations. Hence, it was Lu Changlu from the real martial arts cult who went forward to investigate the formation. After a while, Lu Changlu let out a sigh of relief. He looked around hesitantly. Ling Yunzi frowned and asked, "Leader Lu, is there anything wrong?" Lu Changlu shook his head and said, "There's nothing wrong with the formation. The key is the person who set up the formation. If the real martial arts cult's ancient book is correct, the person who set up the formation should be one of the 4 great demon lords of the Kunlun Devil cult, the Weeping Demon Lord." There was an uproar as soon as he said that. Everyone was dumbfounded. The reputation of the Kunlun Devil cult was not only supported by Dugu Weiwei. The 4 great demon lords of the past were also famous. Usually, the appearance of the inheritance of a hall master of the Kunlun demon sect would cause a huge commotion. But this time around, it was actually the appearance of the inheritance of a hall master of the Kunlun demon sect. This was enough to shake the entire pugilistic world. "Leader Lu, are you sure?" Ling Yunzi quickly asked. Lu Changlu smiled bitterly and said, "How could I be wrong? In the Kunlun Devil cult, the Weeping Demon Lord was known as the best in demonic formation. In fact, the Weeping Demon Lord's cultivation in formation was top-notch even in the martial world. The formation that he set up is very unique. It's recorded in the ancient book of the real martial arts cult. It's easy to identify it." Ling Yunzi furrowed his brows. He was still thinking about what he should do with this cave. Should he just seal it up and destroy it, or should he enter and explore it first? Actually, according to Ling Yunzi's thoughts, the less things of the demonic Tao appeared in the world, the better. Even if they were discovered, they would be directly sealed and never be able to see the light of day again. That was the safest choice. However, there were too many people present. The ancestor of the Shangshuang clan had been staring at the cave with great interest. Helian Changfeng from the White Tiger Hall had also come. He was more interested in the things in the cave. Although the White Tiger Hall wasn't part of the demonic path, it was clear that Helian Changfeng wasn't opposed to cultivating demonic cultivation techniques. At this moment, a calm voice was heard, "Leader Ling Yunzi, are you worried about the inheritance of the Weeping Demon Lord? If you can seal it today, then in the future, there will also be people who can undo this seal. It's better to go down and investigate." After evenly dividing up the demonic path's vicious creatures, we can bring them back to our own sex and seal them again. Ling Yunzi looked up. Luo Mo was here too. There were also many forces from the West Chu. The old celestial master did not come, but Xian Longzi and Zhang Daoling did. The Forgetting Sword Hut and the Storm Sword Tomb also sent people over. Emperor Chen Qing, who hadn't left West Chu in a long time, also personally came. The others were only here for the Weeping Demon Lord. He was here for Yunzi. Ling Yunzi. Ling, Luo Xiu said. Yunzi Ying. Ling Yunzi looked at Luo Mo and nodded. That's good. As long as we don't let these evil things appear, it will be a great contribution to the martial world. Actually, there were many demonic things that were sealed by the sections. There were books and weapons. Logically speaking, some things were actually easier to destroy than to seal. However, as a martial artist, even if it was demonic martial arts, there were still some things that could be comprehended by analogy. Moreover, some things could not be destroyed and could only be sealed. These things were sealed in the deepest part of the sect. As long as the sect was not destroyed, these things would not come out. At this moment, a cold voice was heard. Things that you righteous sects can't use are evil things. You have to seal them. Do you have the final say? As the voice faded, Chu Xiu appeared from the periphery with Shang Tianliang and the others. The surrounding warriors subconsciously made way for them. During the last great battle between the righteous and demonic sects, it was also the battle between the northern Yen and the eastern Qi. Chu Xiu made a move at the crucial moment and turned the tide. His momentum was even more famous in the martial world. Ling Yunzi was unable to take down Chu Xiu when he was in the true fire spirit refinement state. Now that he was in the heaven and earth mysterious state, he still could not take down Chu Xiu. There were even rumors in the martial world that Chu Xiu was Ling Yunzi's nemesis. Seeing Chu Xiu appear, Ling Yunzi frowned slightly. He did not expect Chu Xiu to arrive so quickly. In fact, Chu Xiu had deliberately slowed down. In order not to expose himself, he estimated that the others had already arrived. That was why he rushed over unhurriedly. That's right. Although I don't have much of a relationship with the Kunlun demon sect, I still have a lot of respect for the 4 great demon lords of the past. Our moon-worshipping sect would like to get our hands on the legacy they left behind as well as pay our respects to them. All the righteous martial arts sects in the land of West Chu had come. Naturally, moon-worshipping cult would also be present. However, Yi Shaonan did not come this time. Only Dong Huangtai had come. Perhaps in Yi Shaonan's opinion, even the 4 great demon lords were inferior to him in the past. In that case, what value did he have? Seeing that more than half of the sect experts in the martial world had appeared here, Luo Mo and Ling Yunzi frowned. Chu Xiu was difficult to deal with. Although Yi Shaonan had not come, moon-worshipping cult was also difficult to deal with. However, with their strength, they could still suppress them. However, neutral forces like Chen Qingdi and the Shangshuaying clan were very interested in the Cave of the Demon Lords. If they forcibly sealed it, these people would also be dissatisfied. Luo Mo waved his hand and said, "Open the formation." It was impossible to stop them. However, if there were any ferocious demonic creatures in the cave, they could just snatch them. It did not matter if it fell into the hands of the Ying clan. As long as it did not fall into the hands of Chu Xiu and the other demonic cultivators, it would be fine. Chu Xiu smiled at the side and said, "These formations were left behind by the ancestors of our Kunlun devil cult. Of course, we are the most familiar with them. Why don't you let us break the formations first?" Lu Changlu snorted and said, "These formations were personally laid down by the heaven-weeping demon lord. He did not leave behind any inheritance. Where did your Yinma clan get the method to break the formations? Do you want to seize the initiative?" Seeing that Lu Changlu and the others had already assumed that this was the inheritance of the ruins left behind by the heaven-weeping demon lord, Chu Xiu smiled in his heart. This was the effect he wanted. However, on the surface, Chu Xiu sneered and said, "You don't know how to appreciate my kindness. In that case, if you are not afraid of casualties, you can do it yourself." The formations left behind by the heaven-weeping demon lord are not that easy to break. These formations were laid down by Master Yuanji under Chu Xiu's instructions strictly according to the formation inheritance left behind by the heaven-weeping demon lord. In the cave in the East China Sea, the heaven-weeping demon lord was already seriously injured and on the verge of death. Moreover, he did not have enough materials. Therefore, the formation that he laid down was not as powerful as the one that Master Yuanji had restored. Lu Jianghu and a group of martial artists from the real martial arts sect laid down the formation in front of the cave. After spending a lot of effort, they finally broke the formation. After the group of people entered the cave, they encountered all kinds of dangerous traps and formations along the way. After Lu Changlu and the others identified them, they determined that they were all the work of the heaven-weeping demon lord. From the beginning, everyone did not have any doubts. At this moment, everything that they encountered along the way made them even more certain that this must be the ruins left behind by the heaven-weeping demon lord. After the group of people finally broke the vicious formations and traps, they could not help but gasp when they saw the giant python, Xiaohei, that was entrenched in the hall. In the current underworld, there were very few ferocious beasts. There were only a few in the 100,000 mountains. However, as soon as they appeared, they would be besieged by a group of martial artists like a moving treasure house. The giant python that was about to transform into a dragon was something that none of them had seen before. Qin Qingdi even touched his chin and muttered, "Such a big guy. Isn't its gallbladder very nutritious?" The surrounding people glanced at Qin Qingdi. This person's brain circuit was really different from ordinary people. At this moment, Mako Mori said solemnly, "I have seen it in the ancient books in the sect. It is said that in the past, in the Kunlun devil cult, the heartless demon lord used to raise a black giant python as a pet. That person is cruel and bloodthirsty, committing all sorts of crimes. He often kills the martial artists of our righteous sects to feed the giant python. If I'm not wrong, the giant python in front of me should be the pet of the heartless demon venerable. I am afraid that this is not only the ruins left behind by the heaven-weeping demon lord." Everyone present took in a deep breath of cold air. Where in the world was this place that was left behind by two devil lords of the Kunlun demon sect? While everyone was still in a state of shock, Chu Xiu made the inner demon quietly disperse a portion of its power and attach it to Xiaohei's mind. Xiaohei's mental strength had been shattered by Chu Xiu previously, and he had completely turned into a plant snake. The power of the heart demon was very unique. It was not mental strength, so it would not be noticed by others. Moreover, it was an existence with intelligence, so it could control the giant python. Back then, when Chu Xiu put in so much effort to bring Xiaohei back, it was actually for this scene. Under the control of the heart demon, Xiaohei slowly raised his head and opened his eyes. He roared at the crowd and a large amount of venom spewed out from his mouth. Rama waved his hand and a swastika appeared, easily blocking the venom. At the same time, the pure yang sword in Ling Yunzi's hand shone brightly and slashed at Xiaohei. In an instant, the entire bottom of the cave was shrouded by the sword beam. Countless scales flew and Xiaohei immediately rolled on the ground and howled miserably. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows. The heart demon was indeed a professional. His acting was not bad. What he was controlling was a walking corpse that did not feel pain at all. Yet he acted as though it was real. On the other side, a Buddha Dharma form appeared behind Rama. He held the Aquarius seal in his hand and boundless Buddha light shrouded the snake's head. As the seal landed, the Aquarius seal shrank and in an instant, the snake's head was directly smashed. The heart demon's mental strength returned to Chu Xiu's mind and he muttered, "This monk is really ruthless. What happened to the benevolence of monks? He has no professional ethics at all." Chapter 1041. There were strong and weak existences in the heaven and earth elemental realm. Chu Xiu had seen many heaven and earth elemental realm powerhouses and could more or less see who was strong and who was weak among the supreme powerhouses in the Jianghu. There was no need to mention Zhong Shenxiu and Jun Wuxian. Everyone knew of Yi Xiaonan's strength. The old heavenly master and Rama should be one of the few powerhouses in the present age that had the qualifications to fight Yi Xiaonan one-on-one. Apart from these, the others were weaker. Shang Tianyang and Ling Yunzi were the weakest. Ling Yunzi was weak because he had just stepped into the heaven and earth elemental realm, so his foundation was weaker. Shang Tianyang could step into the heaven and earth elemental realm in Ludu. Although it was enough to prove his amazing talent, there was nothing he could do about it. If Ling Yunzi had not used the pure Yang sword in the previous war, Shang Tianyang would not have lost so badly. But with Ling Yunzi using the pure Yang sword, Shang Tianyang could not hold on. At this time, Xiao He was completely killed by Rama. Even his head was gone. No one could see any flaws. When everyone stepped into the hall and saw the corpses of the heartless demon venerable and the weeping demon venerable, the entire place fell silent. 2 demon venerables. These were 2 genuine demon venerables of the Kunlun devil cult. They stood at the peak of the Jianghu and brought endless fear to countless martial artists of the righteous path. No one doubted that the corpses were fake. Even if the 2 demon venerables were dead, this kind of aura could not be faked. Chu Xiu stood up and said coldly, "Everyone, these are 2 great seniors of my sacred cult. Now that they have fallen here, I must bring their corpses back and bury them properly. Killing people is just a matter of nodding one's head to the ground. They are already dead and the karma of the past is over. If you want to humiliate their corpses, then you will be fighting to the death with my hidden devil lineage." Chu Xiu's attitude was normal in most people's eyes. For the demon lineage, although they had frequent infighting, were not united, and did not follow the rules, some bottom lines could not be violated. Just like the last time the 5-sword sects used the demonic creation flag to lure the demon lineage, it had indeed angered them. Because the demonic creation flag represented the orthodox demon lineage. And right now, the corpses of the 2 demon lords represented the orthodox lineage of the Kunlun demon sect as well. Naturally, they were not to be insulted. Ling Yunzi said in a deep voice, "I will give you the corpses, but you can't take them away. Your Inma lineage has not given up on restoring the Kunlun demon cult. If you were to obtain the inheritance of the 4 great demon lords, it would be a calamity for the Jianghu." Chu Xiu stood up and said, "What do you mean get?" "That was originally something that belonged to my Inma bloodline," Ling Yunzi said coldly, 500 years ago, but not now." As Ling Yunzi's words rang out, Chu Xiu slashed out with his saber. A violent demonic aura swept up a storm as it slashed towards Ling Yunzi. After all, it was related to Chu Xiu's bottom line and the face of the hidden devil lineage. And now, Chu Xiu was almost equivalent to the leader of the hidden devil lineage. After all, this concerned Chu Xiu's bottom line and the face of the Inma lineage. And now, Chu Xiu was almost equivalent to the ruler of the Inma lineage, so it was normal for him to be excited. This cave was set up by Chu Xiu according to his memory and the face of the hidden devil lineage. And now, Chu Xiu was almost equivalent to the leader of the hidden devil lineage. Chu Xiu and Master Yuan Ji had spent a lot of effort to set up this cave according to his own memory. He thought that he had done it flawlessly. But in reality, a fake was a fake. Although there seemed to be no loopholes on the surface, who knew which details went wrong? Therefore, he had to cut the Gordian knot. The last time he fought with Chu Xiu, Ling Yunzi failed to defeat Chu Xiu. He had been criticized by many people in Jianghu, saying that Chu Xiu was his nemesis. After all, Ling Yunzi led the Chunyang Dao sect to fight twice, but he retreated in the hands of Chu Xiu. It was the case when he was in the true fire spirit refinement realm, and it was still the case when he reached the heaven and earth mysterious realm. Although there was a hidden story, and it was not that Ling Yunzi could not defeat Chu Xiu, but that the situation did not allow him to continue fighting, most of the ignorant people in Jianghu did not think so. If you retreated, then you could not beat him. Although you did not lose, you did not win either. Therefore, some people even said that Ling Yunzi did not deserve the title of Supreme Master. Although Ling Yunzi did not care much about his reputation in Jianghu, he could not stand others saying that. Seeing Chu Xiu make his move, the long sword in Ling Yunzi's hand shone with a myriad of rays of light, instantly illuminating the entire cavern. The scorching pure sunlight was like a cage, enveloping Chu Xiu within it. He did not use the pure yang divine weapon today. Shi Yunzi was not here, so he could not control the pure yang sword. However, even if he used an ordinary divine weapon, it would not be a problem for him to suppress Chu Xiu with his strength. The break formula's saber will was unleashed, and the demonic chi saber aura tore everything in its path. Chu Xiu's eyes were scarlet red, and he used his killer move right from the start. His crazy look was not even seen during the righteous and demonic wars in the past. Lu Jianghu, who was at the side, could not help but twitch his mouth when he saw this. This guy's acting skills were getting better and better. He knew that Chu Xiu actually did not have much respect for the Kunlun demon sect. He even dared to make use of the corpses of 2 demon sovereigns. How could he possibly risk his life for the sake of protecting the bottom line of the Kunlun demon sect? As he complained, Lu Jianghu also attacked the righteous path sections. The fight between Chu Xiu and Ling Yunzi was very sudden. Before the people present could react, the two of them had already started fighting. As they fought, Chu Xiu's men also started fighting with the Chunyang Dao sect's men. Dong Huangtai saw that although they were not from the Kunlun devil cult, the righteous path sects wanted to exterminate the devil path sections. Obviously, they did not want them to obtain anything. Therefore, Dong Huangtai also led the moon-worshipping sect's men to attack. Shang Tianliang had just recovered from his injuries. Now that he had to face the powerful Rama, he had no choice but to brace himself and rush forward. Although his strength had increased greatly, he was not much better than before when he faced an existence of Rama's level. After a few moves, he was sent flying by Rama. On the other side, when the Ying family patriarch saw everyone fighting, he went straight to the bodies of the 2 demon lords. At that moment, Rama suddenly stretched out his hand. The Buddha's Dharma idol suddenly descended. As it smiled, the Buddha's light shone brightly and blocked the Ying family patriarch to the side. Old Mr. Ying, be careful with the things of the devil path. The Shangshui Ying family's inheritance is not weak. If you specialize in the devil path, the gains will not make up for the losses. The Ying family patriarch laughed and said, "Who said that I am going to cultivate the devil path? The path of martial arts is to comprehend by analogy. Can I use it to study it?" As he said that, the Ying family patriarch also rushed over and fought with Rama's Dharma idol. Rama was fighting 1 against 2, yet he was still able to block both of them. It was not easy for him. When the other cultivators below saw that everyone had already started fighting, they also made their moves. Originally, Chen Qingdi didn't want to make a move. He was just here to watch the show. His martial Dao didn't need the support of other cultivation methods. He didn't need to comprehend by analogy either. He only needed to stick to his own path. That was enough. However, this area was narrow. No one knew who made the move, but an astral sword slashed at Chen Qingdi. This immediately enraged him. He punched out, and a powerful force swept out. With the addition of Chen Qingdi, everyone present immediately became a mess. It was simply a mess. The attacks of the heaven and earth mystic enlightenment realm experts could topple mountains and overturn seas. However, in this place they had to restrain their strength. However, no matter how much they restrained their strength, this place was only a small cave. Even with the reinforcement of an array, it still couldn't withstand such a powerful force. Thus, in just a short while, the entire cave was shaking. Even the corpse sitting on the bronze throne was swaying. A stone slab suddenly fell to the ground, making a crisp, ding sound. This caused the people who were fighting to pause for a moment. They could clearly see that the blue stone had fallen from the corpse of the Skycry demon venerable. It was obvious that he had been holding it in his hand. What kind of treasure was it that the Skycry demon venerable had been holding on to before his death? Ling Yunzi looked at Chu Xiu, who seemed to have gone crazy, and said in a deep voice, "Chu Xiu, stop. There's no point in continuing this fight. You should know what the inheritance of the Kunlun devil cult represents. We absolutely can't give up on this. However, your own inheritance is already shocking enough. You even have the secret inheritance of Dugu Weiwei. The inheritance of the two demon venerables is just icing on the cake for you. In the end, it's still not worth it for you. How about this? I can give you a promise. We will definitely not damage the corpses of the Heartless Demon Venerable and the Skycry Demon Venerable. We will let you bring them out in one piece. What do you think? Otherwise, if we continue to fight, the corpses of the two demon venerables will be destroyed. The inheritance may also be destroyed. Both sides will suffer and no one will be able to obtain anything. Chu Xiu hesitated for a moment before nodding his head in an unusually manner. Only then did everyone stop fighting and look at the blue stone. At such a sensitive moment, no one dared to make the first move. Only Luo Mo and the other experts went forward to look at the words on the blue stone. However, when they saw the contents of the stone slab, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They were shocked speechless by the contents of the stone slab. The mandate of heaven is undefeated, and the demon lord will not die. These 8 words were like a nightmare that was imprinted in their hearts. The demon lord would not die. Could it be that after 500 years, Dugu Weiwei really did not die? The entire place was silent. After a while, Zhang Daoling from Dragon Tiger Mountain said hesitantly, I heard that the Skycry Demon Venerable is the best in divination in the Devil Path? These 8 words are the contents of his divination? Luo Mo looked at Xiao Mo behind him and said in a deep voice, let's go take a look. Xiao Mo was blinded, but his divination skills had improved. This time, the people from the Temple of Great Light did not come. Among everyone present, he was the person with the highest attainment in divination. Chapter 1042. Xiao Mok held the stone slab. His originally lifeless eyes were now shining with a divine light. An extremely mysterious aura surged into the stone slab. In an instant, the stone slab shone brightly, and an even more mysterious aura was released. Although this aura seemed mysterious, it was actually the power of the heaven's sun gazing at air spell. However, it was not deducing anything, but an extremely pure power of karma that was formed by merging with the world. This kind of deduction that involved the power of karma was something that most of the people present could not understand. After a while, Xiao Mok finally stopped. The light dissipated, and he smiled bitterly. I can't read it and I can't see it. This power involves the karma of the heavens, and its realm is higher than mine. The result that the heaven-weeping demon lord personally deduced is not something that we can see through at all. Only a heaven and earth elemental enlightenment cultivator who is proficient in karma divination can see through it. Hearing Xiao Mok's words, everyone's heart sank, including Dong Huangtai's. It should be said that in this pugilistic world, other than the hidden demon lineage, no one hoped for Dugu Weiwei to reappear. This meant that there would be a powerful existence that dominated the entire pugilistic world above them. As long as the mandate of heaven was not defeated, the demon lord would not die. No one doubted that Dugu Weiwei had lost. In fact, until now, everyone believed that the most likely outcome of the battle 500 years ago was that Ning Xuanji sacrificed himself and perished together with Dugu Weiwei. However, how could the demon lord not die be explained? Could it be that Dugu Weiwei was still alive? Where was he? Luo Mo frowned slightly. Can't you read any bits and pieces of information? Xiao Mok shook his head. I can't tell. At this moment, Xiao Mok suddenly said, there's something down there. With a wave of his hand, 2 streams of vital qi pushed the bronze throne away, revealing the things that Chu Xiu had hidden underneath. To ensure authenticity, Chu Xiu had thrown many good things down there. There were even parts of the Heartless Demon Venerable and the Heaven-Weeping Demon Venerable's inheritance. Those cultivation methods and ancient books were all buried under the throne. Everyone was envious, but no one touched them. Their gazes were all fixed on a piece of silk cloth. There was no power on the silk cloth, but it was precisely because of this that they felt puzzled. An ordinary silk cloth that had not even been contaminated with much devil chi was placed together with a bunch of powerful devil arts. Anyone who saw it would be suspicious. With a wave of his hand, Rama unfurled the silk cloth with his gang chi, revealing the words on it to the crowd. It was a paragraph of words left behind by the heaven-weeping demon Venerable. As long as the heavenly mandate is not defeated, the demon lord will not die. This was the future of the saint that I had deduced with my last bit of effort. 500 years later, the sect master's devil core was not destroyed. His true spirit reincarnated and he returned after experiencing 10,000 tribulations. The inheritance of this place shall be left to the descendants of my devil path. Those who obtain my inheritance shall follow the sect master and return to Kunlun to establish the foundation of my saint's sect for eternity. As long as the sacred flame is not extinguished, the demonic Tao shall exist forever. When they finished reading the words left on the silk cloth, everyone present was silent. However, their hearts were surging like waves, and they couldn't calm down no matter what. Dugu Weiwei didn't die. He actually succeeded in reincarnating. This news was like a nightmare coming true for them. There was a trace of fear in everyone's eyes. Even if they had not lived through that era, they had felt the terror of being dominated by the monstrous power of the demonic flames from the ancient records of their sections. Even Luo Mo, who was always calm and composed, was frowning at this moment. His thoughts were in a mess. Shou Jinzi's voice trembled slightly as he asked, "What year is Genshin year?" The corner of Ling Yunzi's mouth twitched as he said, "If we start counting from the year when the Kunlun devil cult was destroyed, the year of Jiaoshan 500 years later would be 18 years ago." Hearing Ling Yunzi's words, everyone present immediately trembled. 18 years ago? Didn't that mean that while they were fighting for their lives here, there was a pair of eyes in Jianghu that had been watching them all this time? Who knew when the monstrous demonic flames would bloom and the entire Jianghu would be shrouded in demonic power again? It wasn't that no one present had doubted the authenticity of this matter. After all, reincarnation was too mystical. However, this person was Dugu Weiwei, so anything was possible. Everyone had only heard of how powerful the eternal demon pill was, but now, they had seen it for themselves. Previously, Chu Xiu had fought to the death with the old monk from Sabodhi Monastery, but he was still able to reconstruct his body. Wasn't that shocking enough? Most importantly, the person who had done this was only Chu Xiu. The difference between Chu Xiu and Dugu Weiwei could be said to be like the difference between clouds and mud. If Chu Xiu could do this, why couldn't Dugu Weiwei? Moreover, it was better to believe in this kind of thing than not. Even if there was only a 1 in a million possibility, it was enough to make the entire Jianghu panic. Everyone present had a myriad of thoughts. Some people subconsciously looked in the direction of Chu Xiu, only to find that the situation on Chu Xiu's side was very interesting. Shang Tianliang looked indifferent. Chu Wuji, a martial artist from the Yinma clan, looked excited, but Chu Xiu was expressionless, as if he wasn't happy. Everyone present had come out of the Jianghu's infighting and killing, so they had already guessed Chu Xiu's thoughts. Although Chu Xiu was now the leader of the Yinma clan, in fact, he was not a direct descendant of the Kunlun devil cult. The direct descendants of the Kunlun devil cult all called the Kunlun devil cult as a holy cult, but this word was rarely heard from Chu Xiu's mouth. The appearance of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation was definitely a joyous event for the other members of the Kunlun devil cult, but it was not the case for Chu Xiu. Because it meant that he was no longer the orthodox of the diabolism, and even the Yinma clan was bound to change masters. He, Chu Xiu, would also go from being above tens of thousands of people to being below countless people. In normal times, they would still be very interested in the internal strife of the diabolism, but now that the news of Dugu Weiwei's reincarnation was in front of them, it no longer aroused their interest. The deterrence of the name Dugu Weiwei was not something that Chu Xiu could compare with. At this moment, Chen Qingdi suddenly said, "I say, do you still want the things inside? If you don't want them, I'm going to take them." Although Chen Qingdi did not plan to snatch the treasures this time, seeing that no one present was taking action, wouldn't it be a waste to just leave them here? After Chen Qingdi's interruption, Ling Yunzi and the others finally took action and divided the things inside. Moreover, according to the previous agreement, the bodies of the 2 demon lords and the bronze thrones were handed over to Chu Xiu. They did not go back on their word and were very efficient. Previously, many righteous sects still regarded Chu Xiu as a great enemy, and some even said that if Chu Xiu did not suppress him as soon as possible, it would be too late for regrets when he grew into the next Dugu Weiwei. But now, the real Dugu Weiwei had appeared, and who cared about Chu Xiu? After coming out of the cave, the people present did not even have time to exchange greetings. They all hurried back to the sect to prepare to discuss this matter. This matter was even more terrifying than the rise of Yi Xiaonan and Chu Xiu in the past. No one knew what the reincarnation of Dugu Weiwei looked like, whether he had memories, whether his strength had recovered, and so on. A few days later, this news had completely broken out, and it instantly caused panic in the entire underworld. Although Luo Mo and the others wanted to hide it and then secretly search for clues about the reincarnation of Dugu Weiwei, there were too many people who entered the cave. However, there were too many people who had entered the cave, and there were even some rogue cultivators following behind them, so it was impossible to hide it. Although they did not even see the shadow of Dugu Weiwei, the name Dugu Weiwei had already shrouded the entire underworld in a demonic shadow. In the Jianghu Hall, Wei Shia was still in seclusion, and the other core figures on Chu Xiu's side were all there. They knew about Chu Xiu's plan, and now they saw that Chu Xiu actually used a fake news to turn the entire underworld upside down. They were all shocked. Yes, the current underworld was turned upside down. After the people of the major forces returned to their sects, the first thing they did was to send the disciples of their sects to search for the martial artists born 18 years ago. In their opinion, since Dugu Weiwei had been reincarnated for 18 years, but he did not appear, there were only two possibilities. One was that his strength was not enough, and the other was that after reincarnation, he did not recover his previous memories. No matter which one it was, if they found him now, the righteous sects still had a chance. Otherwise, there was no second Ning Xuanji in the current underworld to stop Dugu Weiwei. However, doing this was actually like looking for a needle in a haystack. There were countless martial artists born 18 years ago. How could they find them? Moreover, who said that the reincarnation of Dugu Weiwei must be born in a martial artist family? What if he was an ordinary person? What if he was from the royal family? What if he was overseas? These were all things that could not be said for certain. However, now that everyone was panicking, they could only temporarily use such a stupid method to calm the hearts of the people. As for Rama, he directly contacted the Great Light Temple and asked Xiao Mo, Su Jing, the Dao sect, and a few great grandmasters who were proficient in divination to deduce the Devil Lord's immortal slate and see if there were any clues. In any case, the entire underworld's attention was attracted by the name of Dugu Weiwei. No one was paying attention to Chu Xiu anymore. Mei Qinglian asked, "Now that everyone's attention has been attracted, can we consider going up Kunlun Mountain again?" At the thought of this, even Mei Qinglian could not help but feel a little excited. Kunlun, the inheritance of the devil cult, still existed, but the descendants of the devil cult had never been to Kunlun Mountain in their entire lives. And now, this opportunity was right in front of them. How could they not be excited? Chu Xiu knocked on the table and said, "There's no hurry. We still need to make them think that I'm one of them. Only then will we be able to minimize the impact of my reopening of Kunlun Mountain. And don't forget about Sidu Chi and his gang. Before going up Kunlun Mountain, we should also get rid of those stinking bugs." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.